Pizza time.
Pizza time.
We didn't say it at the same time, but oh well.
Close enough. It's pizza time, baby.
Yeah. We're talking about
Taco.
we're talking about Spider-Man 2. This is the Movie Night Society. I guess I forgot to say that. Who cares? We're talking about Spider-Man 2. That's what's important.
We're something of a movie night society ourselves. Had to do it. I didn't do it in the last one. And I said I should have, so I did it in this one.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking about Spider-Man 2. This I know is one of your like all-time favorite movies.
This is my second favorite movie of all time. So.
Oh, okay. So like it's
pretty
like
high
officially,
up there. Yeah.
Officially your second favorite. Okay.
It is my second favorite movie of all time. So there's no bias going into this review at all. None whatsoever. No bias.
I wonder what you're gonna give it at the end. Probably like 2 stars.
Yeah, probably 2. You know, it's my second favorite movie, so 2 stars seems about right, you know.
Man, I need to make my list of my favorite movies, but maybe we could do a video on that sometime. Who knows? But right now we're talking about Spider-Man 2. I think this is one of the best comic book movies ever made. I mean, I
obviously
think, like,
I agree.
This whole trilogy, I think, is just great. Like I think it legit is just great writing all around. I don't know. I want to hear you kind of start off this one because it's your second favorite movie of all time. I feel like you should.
Okay.
Wow. You probably have something to say about this movie. I'm sure.
Many things to say. Where to even start? I like. What should I kind of like? Because when we, if you saw our other video with Spider-Man 1, kind of went into the history of the character a little bit and why I love the character of Spider-Man so much, why I enjoy the movie so much, why I think people resonate with Spider-Man so much as a character. So wondering like what should I say about this one? Just maybe why it's my like one of my favorite movies or something.
What I love guess about like it. Why is this one so much better than the first one? I guess you know.
Okay. Well, obviously, if you know, and obviously if anyone's watched our other review, I gave this first Spider-Man a 4.5, and I think if it wasn't for Spider-Man 2. That could have been a 5 out of 5 movie for me, but because I even said in the review that this movie exists, that would be why that movie, it's like, no, that's not 5 out of 5 because this is a 5 out of 5. You're already getting my review. We'll talk about reviews again at the end, our scores, but to me, this is nearly a perfect movie because I think it takes everything that was great about the first one, all the character drama, all the characters, the action, it's the CG, there's a lot of great character interactions between the characters, and it just either improves upon everything or everything like just as good, if not mostly better, I'd say. Yeah, I can't think of like anything in the movie I really dislike. I think all the characters act appropriately, given like their past histories together and just everything that all the characters have been through. And I think ultimately everything that happens in the movie was like set up really well in the first one, and we get a payoff to just about everything in this, save for like some stuff that they obviously wanted to save for another movie if they did it. But like this movie could almost kind of conclude right here and be, I think, a satisfactory ending in a lot of ways. And I'll talk about like that towards the end. But just everything about this movie, I think, does right. It takes everything that was good about the first one and it just kind of goes bigger with it. And I think all the stuff I loved with, like, let's say Peter and Aunt May and, you know, Harry and Peter's relationship, and then Peter and MJ's relationship, it kind of all gets taken up a notch into this one. And we have like just a lot of really great moments with some of this character drama because I think a lot of people like Spider-Man and everything for the action and everything, but I think these characters and like the storylines from the comics and stuff and in these movies in particular have just great character moments because these characters are good. So the film just works with these characters like just kind of themselves, like outside of even like I think the Spider-Man stuff. And I pretty much love how the movie handles that. every scene in the movie feels important. What would you say about that? Which, if you like agree, everything feels
Yeah,
important in this. Everything like
I would say so.
builds upon something or leads into something. Everything like there's really nothing I would cut out of this movie. And you know, that's really true for the first one kind of as well, but I think even more so for this one. Just like every scene feels important. It adds to
Yeah,
something.
yeah, I
And
definitely
it's
agree.
always just like a joy to watch. It's a 2 hour movie, I believe, right? It's 2 hours.
Yeah, like two
Doesn't
hours and like 1 minute.
yeah. We'll just say a 2 hour movie. It doesn't feel like it at
Yeah.
all. If I think it goes by, it just doesn't feel like it's 2 hours to me. Maybe to you or other people it does.
No, it really doesn't to me.
But it's
Like I
very well
think the
paced. I
pacing,
thought the pacing is
yeah, the
great.
pacing's great. Yeah.
And yeah, I think when we talk about the movie, we get to certain scenes. I'll kind of go more into those scenes and say like why this scene is what really stands out of the movie and really elevates the movie for me. But I think that's kind of like the gist of all the stuff why I love this movie so much and why it's one of my favorites. But we'll talk more about it. But that's just some stuff right there.
Yeah, I mean, I basically agree with everything you said. Again, like it really does just like build on every relationship from the first movie, every like problem like that arises from what happens in the first movie. Like everything has consequence. And I think that's
Yeah,
just like
that's a good way to say it.
really, yeah, just really like great sequel writing, you know? Just great writing in general, but like I feel like especially like a good sequel should build on
Yeah,
things and without
not just
feeling
retell the
like
same
it,
story.
yeah, and without feeling like it ruins endings to the first movie's conclusions to like certain drama, you know?
Yeah. Hmm.
It feels like it's just like an extension of it.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
you said,
it's
what a good sequel does, it continues the story, and it
yeah,
continues it very well in this one, where they had the ideas there, and they just kind of continuing off of the stuff that they set up in the first one, and it feels very organic.
yeah. All right, yeah, well that's the end of this episode.
There you go. Go watch it.
No, yeah, let's talk about the movie. The first like 10 minutes of this movie, it's just things going wrong for
For
Peter,
Peter. Yep.
and it's like
That's just this movie almost in general.
it really is.
Like they almost go like almost over the top with just this dude can't catch a break.
I know
But
it's like relentless.
it really is. Like this movie is just out to make Peter suffer. But once again, that's just it's funny too, but it's that's just like you kind of have to do that to really drive home the message here and what it means to be Spider-Man.
Yeah, and it's like I feel like people just go through that in life, you
Yeah,
know?
once again, it goes back to the relatability of the character, where we all have moments in our life where just nothing's going right. It just the world's out to get me. I don't know what's going on. I just can't catch a break. And Peter has to go through all the stuff that we would go through, and he has to be a superhero on top of it. It's almost a miracle he's able to do as much as he can, because the opening of the movie, it's like you said, can't catch a break. It opens with him being late for work. He's got several jobs now because he's in college, so he's a struggling college student. If you've been in college, and where we've been through college, we've been through that. I was never like struggling as much as Peter, because I never went to like a university or anything. It's even, well, I did at CSUN, but later on. But I
Mhm.
never like took as hard classes as he did. I was just never, it was never that bad for me. But anyone who goes to school can relate with trying to balance schoolwork with having a life. You have to
Yeah,
prioritize, and it's hard.
he has to balance like work life, school life, just social relationships, family.
Yeah, and it just kind of like everything, nothing of those things that you mentioned are going right for him in this movie.
Yeah, I mean it's really just stuff that people go through like
Yeah,
on a daily basis, you know,
yes.
just
And
like
again, like that's the relatability right there, is everyone can relate to that. Like the stuff you go through, you know.
Yeah,
and
and it's
Peter's
just
having a hard time with it, like anybody else. You know, like,
and
he's late to
it's
work.
very like yeah, and it's very exaggerated and it's very funny, but it is yeah, again, like the writing is just like so on point. Uh but like oh god, yeah, this is I like the way the movie opens just like even before that, just the whole opening sequence.
Yeah, we
Like
didn't talk
can
about
we
that in
yeah,
the
we didn't
first
talk about
review. We
that
should have, because
the
it's
opening sequences, the credit sequences are just like so I I mean, I don't know. I just feel like movies don't do that
they don't.
much either.
They
Just like
don't.
have like a good like musical opening, you know, just like have these cool credits. I feel like most movies nowadays like have them at the end,
Yeah,
you know.
not at the beginning. It's
It's like,
they
yeah,
don't seem
why
to do
would we
that
get you
anymore.
excited for the movie before it
I know
starts?
when these themes, the way it opens up, you still have the logos, and you can start the Spider-Man theme starts kind of slowly coming in there and starts
Yeah.
building up and building up,
Oh,
and it gets
it's
you.
so
I
good.
always gets me so excited to watch the movie, and it's like you said, movies just don't do that now. They just kind of open, and they don't. There's no build up there to make you excited to watch it. And these themes by Danny Elfman, he did the themes, I believe. Like he did the music for these films.
Yeah.
I assume he did the themes.
I think
You
he's
know,
done most of the music for like Sam Raimi's later
yeah,
movie. Like I don't
he
he
does
didn't do
great,
like Evil
obviously.
Dead, but
No,
like
but yeah, Danny Elfman, like I think a lot of people, like if they pay attention to music for these type of movies, would know his
yeah,
name at least.
yeah, worked
Very
on a lot of
iconic.
Tim Burton movies.
Yeah.
He did do one of the main themes for Army of Darkness, so he did
Okay.
work on Evil Dead.
Yeah. So
Um,
okay, there you go.
yeah, he's and he worked on the new Doctor Strange movie. I thought the music in the new Doctor Strange movie was like really good.
Yeah, which is you can't really say a whole lot for the MCU music because most of it, except for maybe like the Avengers theme, I thought
Yeah,
is pretty forgettable overall.
I feel like I've mentioned it before on this channel, but there is a good video by Every Frame a Painting on like MCU music and just like music, kind of how it works nowadays in general. And there is like a snippet of an interview with Danny Elfman in that where he kind of complains about the industry like practices and like how music is composed nowadays.
Yeah.
It's more like you
Um,
create like you have like temp music and then your composers just try to match that instead of like
yeah, and because
cutting
a
the movie
result,
first and then
yeah,
composing.
and no one remembers the music thanks because of that type of practice. None of the music
Yeah,
from any of these type of movies are memorable, whereas these themes, uh,
they're
very
still
memorable. They're great,
yeah.
and I especially love how they do it in two because we get these kind of paintings of scenes from the first one,
Yeah, that was a great way to
painted out
recap the
scenes.
first movie.
Yes, I mean they in the first one we just kind of get like kind of these animations of things and like some spiders and the Spider-Man stuff in the first one. I liked the ones in the first one, but like the paintings of the scenes are this movie has my favorite ones because if we talk about Spider-Man 3, really it has a theme like this, but it just shows clips of what happened in Spider-Man 2, and it just
Okay.
not the same. I don't know if you remember that or not. That's how 3 does it. Is it uses clips from the movie, and I like the paintings. I like how it shows the paintings from scenes from the first movie. It's very effective to me, and it matches the music I think really well, especially when it's done like a close up or something on something. It's so good. Highly
Yeah.
recommend watching it if you're like watching it on YouTube or something. Because sometimes I'll just watch them on YouTube because they're so well done. And
Yeah,
I
I'm
didn't
trying to find who did the
I
paintings.
what I never noticed, I think until I saw or watched someone's review on some of these movies before, is that in these openings, it has both the Spider-Man and Peter Parker's theme in it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
that's
a really
another
neat
thing to mention about the
detail.
music is like I love how there are these like character themes. Like especially in this one, I think Doc Ock is very noticeable.
Yeah.
You know, every time before he even shows up like on screen in a scene, you can hear his theme
Yeah.
and you know like, oh, it's Doc
Yep.
Ock. And I just yeah, like we don't like get that in movies
No.
anymore. And it's
No, you
very
don't. You really don't.
Yeah, it's very like
I miss it
I don't know,
'cause it's really
sad.
good. Yeah, because like who wouldn't get excited watching this movie, seeing like this opening theme and these opening segments? Like it makes me so
Yeah,
excited to watch. Like I just like to watch them on my own, like on their own, because they're good. But
yeah,
yeah, that's
and I
just
feel like well, I'll just say this, like I feel like the opening is great too, that it just shows these paintings, not like clips like you said with three, and yet you're still like the first movie was so good that like you can just show a still from it and you're like, oh, I remember the emotions of that scene,
yeah.
you know. uh I think it's just like a testament to how good the first movie is as well, and like it's a good way to recap it without just like explaining what happened in the first movie, and like I don't know, dragging it out. um it's like, yeah, you still have to see the first movie to understand what those images in the opening like are, but like I assume like everyone watches the first movie anyway. But yeah, the opening's great. um
That it is.
yeah, I don't know if you
Love
had
it.
anything else to say about the opening.
No, that's pretty much it. It's great.
Do you know
Fantastic.
who did the paintings?
Um,
Because I don't know.
I
And
want to
I'm
say
trying to look it up.
Alex Ross, but
Hmm.
it might have been Alex Ross, but I'm guessing. The art style kind of looks like his, so
Okay, I'm looking at IMDb. I searched Alex Ross. It says original illustrations. He's credited for original illustrations. So I think you're right. That's
yeah, because
probably Alex
he's
Ross.
done Spider-Man like art before,
Okay.
especially like around that time. I think he even what's funny is like a little bit of trivia here in the first Spider-Man movie video game. You actually have alternate costumes for Spider-Man and Green Goblin in his art style, like, that were designed by
Oh,
Ross. So that's
well, that's
why
cool.
yeah. I always thought those were cool, especially like Green Goblin's looks more like his comic book one. I'd Google the costumes and see for yourself. They're pretty cool. But I think that's why Alex Ross came to mind, and just like the way he does Spider-Man's eyes are very true to his art style. So like I said, it's still a guess, but if I had to guess, I would say Alex Ross probably did those. But I
Okay.
could be wrong. I don't know.
I think that's probably a good guess.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
going to take the time to look it up right now, but
no.
uh, yeah. And then I believe a painting of Mary Jane kind of transitions into the billboard, right?
Yeah, it's
Very
really nice
cool.
translation. Transition,
Yeah, and then Peter is going to the pizza place.
which he's
Uh,
late for.
yeah, we could see again, like these little characters that show up for just one scene are great, especially in this movie. Like Mr. Aziz,
Go!
goal. Yeah, just very memorable. Uh, I don't know. I'm trying to just like, it's gonna be hard to just like not just completely like kiss this movie's ass. You know what I mean? It's
So
just like
good.
it's yeah, everything's just really good. I like just how Peter
Yeah,
is going so fast. He like stops and like the whole bike almost like flips over.
I really love the opening for this movie. How it does all that, and I just gotta say, as a kid, the expectations I had for the movie is. I remember as a kid, I wanted the movie to open with Spider-Man like swinging around the city and doing Spider-Man things. Because obviously, when you're a kid, it's like I want to see Spider-Man in this costume all the time. And I remember as a kid, it's like, it didn't open with him as Spider-Man. I'm disappointed, a little disappointed because of that. But now I love how it doesn't open up with him as Spider-Man. Like it opens with him just struggling to even get to work, and you know why, even without it's showing, you kind of probably know why, and then even shows like, oh, like you're late, man. Why are you always late to work? Oh, there was a disturbance, and it shows the mask in his pocket that he's tucking. So it's like he was just Spider-Man. We just don't
Yeah,
see it, but that's the reason. So I can appreciate that more now. But I remember as a kid, like, oh man, I want to see him as Spider-Man swinging around and doing stuff. But I love how it opens up this way instead. But I'm just saying, like 11, 12-year-old me was disappointed it didn't open up with him as Spider-Man. Just something I remember, as a kid, because I saw the first one, of course, when it came out, and I was very young, but I remember seeing it in theaters, and then I remember, of course, the expectations I had for this movie as a kid. So I just thought I'd mention that really quick. I thought I just still remember that, so I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I was too young to see it in theaters, but I think I didn't see it in theaters. I think 3 was probably the first one I saw in theaters. But yeah, I can imagine that as a kid, just being like, oh, it's not. I want to see Spider-Man.
Yeah, well, of course,
Yeah.
as a kid, it's like, oh, I want to see Spider-Man fighting, 100 villains all the time. Why doesn't it show that all the time? It's what kids want to see. For the most part, kids they want to get to the action. You don't appreciate the stuff that Peter really goes through. Struggling with things in his life until you go through that, and you can relate to that. But that's what's great about Spider-Man is there's something there for everything like that. As a young adult going through all that, you can relate, and as a kid, you're just gonna see him fight the bad guys and stuff. But it's all good. So yeah, it opens up him being late to work. He has a couple minutes to get the pizzas to where he needs to get them, or he'll be fired. So he's got this little scooter thing. He's going through the streets in New York, and he's bumping the cars and everything, and he's just not gonna make it. So we just see him dash off towards the alley carrying all these pizzas, and he goes in, and you got the guy there, kind of I think it's like from, I don't remember the actor's name.
Oh,
he was on you know what I'm talking about, right? The guy was like, he stole that guy's pizzas. That guy.
I know what you're talking about.
He's like
he was
someone
familiar.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look.
It's basically like a cameo almost. I just don't remember. He's like from a show or something. I don't know his name or anything like that.
I'm looking him up.
Okay.
He's credited as Pizza Heist Witness. That's great.
I love that. I mean, it's not wrong.
Donald Rawlings. Let's see. Let's see. He was in the Chappelle Show.
Okay, that must be what I'm thinking of, the
And
Chappelle Show.
So
I guess he was relevant or something at this point to have him just in this movie. I don't know. But I don't know. Is that little scene is really funny. Just a guy. Even if you don't know who he is, it's not like I had any idea as a kid or anything who he is. He sees a guy with a bunch of pizzas running an alley, and then Spider-Man comes out with them. He stole that guy's pizzas. Just a really funny scene. So yeah, he changes into Spider-Man. He's delivering his pizzas, and we get another funny scene of he sees 2 kids about to be run over by a truck, and he saves them. Which, fun fact, the father of those 2 kids, my mother knew him.
Really?
Yeah, he at where she taught at. She didn't have those kids as students, but I think she had the siblings. So just one time when I was watching the movie, she knows who those 2 kids are. It's oh yeah, the father, I knew him from where I taught. So my mom knew those 2 kids. I thought that was funny because
that's interesting.
Yeah, as soon as they left the school she taught at, they went to another school or something. The dad worked on the movie. I don't know exactly what he did, but he worked on the Spider-Man 2. So that's how they got to be in the movie, is because of that. But I just thought that was funny. It's these 2 random extra kids, and it's oh, my mom knows them. And they're adults now.
It's always interesting, to think about, oh, where are kids in movies?
Yeah, because it's okay, knowing this came out, they were about our age when this came out, and now they're adults. But I just thought it was funny. It's my mom knows those kids and knows the father and everything, and she's oh, that's so and so. It's you know these kids? How do you know them? So that's just a fun personal thing. Is okay, my mom knows somebody, little extra person that was in Spider-Man too. So fun fact. So yeah, anyways, he saves the 2 kids. Then he goes and he gets the pizzas back from the guy who got the 1 piece, and we get another joke of oh, the guy got a piece, and then Spider-Man webs it at the last second. Just fun.
I want to say that guy is I want to say that guy is also probably some like actor who's been in other
Probably.
things too.
Yeah. He doesn't even speak. He just this little scene of him like, oh, he sees pizzas all of a sudden on his roof, and like, of course, like, oh, I get there's
Oh,
pizzas here. I'll just take them.
okay. It's yeah, this makes sense. It's Scott Spiegel, who has worked with Sam Raimi on like basically every movie he's done.
Okay.
He wrote Evil Dead 2 with him, I believe.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And
See, I never knew that.
yeah, because I was like, oh my god, he looks so familiar. I was
No,
like, yeah,
that's cool. I love learning like any new thing, little bit of trivia I can learn about the movie is always pretty cool.
yeah, he's also in Doctor Strange too, where he's like one of
Really?
the souls of the damned, like one
Oh,
of the
okay.
voices.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to say the guy who says like he stole that guy's pizzas.
Pizzas.
I was like, I know this guy from something, and I remembered it. There's a YouTube video. It's like a really short video, but it's just like this out of context clip from like from some podcast. And the video is just called like "My Dad Passed Away About a Year Ago," and it's just I was like, it looks like him. Like, is that the guy?
It's funny how you can remember that.
I know. Well,
And that's like the whole
clip is
thing.
really funny. But just like I can't say what happens in the clip, but like just go watch it. It's funny. Yeah, the guy on the balcony is Scott Spiegel.
Tries to get some
Yeah,
pizza, fails.
fails. Yeah.
And then we get this really funny scene of
Oh my
Peter comes
God.
out of this room closet.
Yeah.
It never shows like there's got to be a window, but it never like shows how he got in there, which I think just adds to being
And
funny.
how did he get in there without the secretary seeing?
Yeah, there's got to be like
it
some
doesn't
kind
really
of,
matter.
there's got to be some kind like he lands like when he gets the pizzas, you see him land like at a window, so there's got to be a window in there he crawled through. But it's just funny. It seems like there's all these mobs in there, and they just keep falling. He's just trying to like, and I feel like everyone's had this type of struggle where like brooms or something are falling, and you're like trying to pick it up, and it just all keeps falling down on you, and you keep trying, and he's just
and you're like pressed for time.
yes, and it's like you get frustrated watching him because like, dude, just forget the brooms and deliver the pizzas. But he's just like focusing on putting the brooms in there because Peter's just like a good guy. He doesn't want to just like leave a mess somewhere that he made. And then so finally he comes over, and of course the famous line, pizza time. And
yeah,
she just looks at the clock with slow turn, chewing the gum. I feel like this actress is from something.
It's so funny in this in this one little bit. I'm gonna look her up. Oh my god. Okay, it's Emily Deschanel, Zooey Deschanel's sister.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, she was in like Bones.
That's
yeah,
funny.
okay. I was like, again, it's like all these actors. I'm like, I know you from something. I'm sure.
If anyone would recognize like random actors in like small roles, you'd be the guy. So
yeah, well, to be fair, I'm looking them up on IMDb, but
yes, but like it's like I've seen this person somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's funny. It's just like, all these people, like kind of like famous people and stuff that just have these 2-second roles almost, and like they're all rememberable.
Yeah,
it's like even just this lady who just has this like this kind of
just chewing the gum,
like condescending attitude almost.
You're late.
Just like I'm not paying for
those.
Yeah,
so good.
Which, if I was Peter, it's like, okay, well, I'm fired then. I'm just going to take these pizzas if you're not going to pay them because I'm going to need some food for a while. That's what I would have done. But no, Peter's good. He just, like, okay, takes just, like, little things and just leaves, doesn't say anything.
Yeah, which I love.
I'd take those pizzas. I'll be like, these are mine.
I love that they're just, like held together by those, like, I don't know what they're called. Those straps with the hooks.
My uncle has some of those for, like, putting stuff in his truck. So
yeah,
I don't know what they're called though, but like
I don't know either. There's some name for them, but like
there's just these stretchy straps with the hooks at the end.
It's like,
that's like the only thing.
They not like
crushed?
Because they're like elastic, but they like it's like, how are they not crushing the pizzas? And okay, I gotta say, it's been a while since I've been to New York, but like I how many deep dish pizza places are there in New York? Because they say it's deep dish, and I'm like, deep dish pizza. I'm sorry, it's fucking disgusting. Like I don't know. I'm not a
Oh,
deep dish
I
pizza
like
guy.
deep dish pizza, so
Really? I
yeah.
don't know. It's
I like
like so
I like any
gross.
type of pizza though. I like deep dish pizza, but I
I
like
don't know. It doesn't
any
even
kind
taste
of
like
pizza.
pizza to me.
Hmm.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
because like in like elementary school, they the food they would sell was like these deep dish pizzas, and they
Oh,
tasted
well, that will
nasty.
do it for you. You gotta have a good
Yeah,
deep dish pizza then.
yeah. I don't know, but like I feel like most places in New York, I don't feel like are deep dish. But
Probably
anyway,
not. Yeah,
that's like a
I don't know.
small.
Like I like deep dish pizza, but whatever.
Oh, I guess we have to stop here then.
I just like pizza, So
Yeah,
I'll
pizza time. It's like
pizza
weird. It
time.
doesn't look like deep dish pizza when he opens it up though. But again,
This I don't remember
I'm
even
nitpicking.
I don't remember even seeing the pizza. So like
Okay,
it's a
well
deep dish pizza, but
the guy takes the slice out. Remember?
that's right. It doesn't look like a deep dish
Yeah,
pizza
it doesn't. But I don't think it's like
because
whatever.
deep dish pizzas are like much thicker. It's almost
Yeah,
like a pie level thickness.
yeah. They're
Maybe
like
that's why because like
a
it's
lot
so
of
much, maybe it's
sauce.
so much like more bread than just like a regular thin crusted pizza. Maybe that's why. I know a lot. There's plenty of people that don't like deep dish. Deep dish
Yeah,
isn't my favorite because like I don't normally eat deep dish, but I do like deep dish.
I remember there was like a whole thing on a bit on Jon Stewart where he like made fun of deep dish pizza. It's
Yeah,
like
well, that's
I
fine. It's
agree.
like it's not the most like authentic pizza. It's not,
Yeah,
but
I think that's like I feel that's why I feel like it's like a New York thing to not like deep dish pizza. But
probably
I don't know.
it
I
could
don't
be.
live in New York.
I'm just saying like I like deep dish pizza. It's not like my favorite kind of pizza. It's not like my go-to, but I do like it. If it's good, just have to throw that out there about deep dish pizza.
Yeah. Anyway, I didn't mean to get off track. It's just
Hey,
like
if we talk about
I
food,
thought about that during
that's
the movie.
I'll get off track when it comes to food. So
Yeah. But
okay,
yeah, then after
but yeah, he gets fired because he's late delivering the
yes,
pizzas, and I
he pulls
love
off
how
the
he
sticker.
just pulls off the sticker like brutal, man. It's like you could have just fired me, but you fire me and you tear off my sticker on my helmet. Just
Well, it wasn't
once
on there
again,
very well to begin with.
no,
It was
probably
like all
because like
bunched up
well, they probably like had to make it that way so it's like easy to rip
so that
off.
he
I
could
guess yes,
yeah.
but it's just kind of like what you said earlier. Is like this is just Peter Suffers the movie. Like it's almost
It
over the
really
top
is.
of like
I
how
mean,
mean
it
this
really
movie
is for
is.
the first like 10 minutes, especially. And then
Yeah, because
there are other scenes.
immediately into that, like you hear, like he says, "You're fired," and then we hear Jay Jonah, "You're fired." Peter, hello, you're fired. You hear his voice say, "You're fired,"
Yeah.
before it even goes into the scene. So like immediately he just gets fired again, and he's like, "Well, why?" It's like, "Oh, you're not giving me pictures of Spider-Man," and then Peter doesn't want to give him pictures of Spider-Man because Jay Jonah, you know, has made Spider-Man to be like this criminal, so he doesn't want to keep giving them pictures of Spider-Man anymore, but he needs the money.
Yeah.
So,
And
so
then
Peter doesn't really get fired from there, but it's just like how way it segues into it is hilarious.
yeah, and Jameson is like, I'll give you 150, and then I think Peter's like,
Yeah,
no,
I want
300.
300. That's outrageous. Done.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then that isn't even enough to
To
cover the
cover the
advance
advance. Yes.
that he had
So
last time.
yeah. It's like well, it's like another loss.
Yeah, and like, okay, well, Jameson is just going to use this photo to make Spider-Man look bad. Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
like all bad for Peter.
I know this movie. I mean, this happened a bit in the first one too, but they're just cranking it up to 100 in this movie. Like I says, it's almost over the top with how just bad things are for Peter. But again, I think it works for this movie because it's supposed to show the consequences. Because he wasn't Spider-Man for a good chunk of the first one. He was getting the powers and everything, and we didn't get to see really living a lot of this college life as Spider-Man. So here we're seeing he's more of an adult now, and he's working several jobs, going to college, and all that. So it's really gotta kind of hit home how much being Spider-Man sucks for him. Like it's just
Yeah.
he gets nothing out of being Spider-Man. Like it just
Yeah.
misery, nothing but misery. It ruins
Misery,
all
misery,
misery. That's what you've chosen. And he wasn't wrong. Green
Yeah,
Goblin wasn't wrong. I mean, he wasn't even wrong about eventually, like, people will come to hate you. I think,
yeah.
it could just be a lot of it is, the newspapers, especially Daily Bugle, slandering him. It is
Yeah.
I'm going to use a slander joke, but just making him out like he's a criminal. So even the people he protects, it's like a lot of them might not trust him because of what the media says about him. So again, it's just he's doing all this. He's ruining all his relationships. He doesn't have time to do his homework. He doesn't have time to spend time with his friends or family or write his paper. And even where you think, okay, well, maybe he gets some enjoyment as being Spider-Man. It's like not really,
Not
because a lot of
really,
people
no.
don't even like him. So it's really just there to drive home that this just makes Peter's life bad. Like being Spider-Man is not fun for him. You'd think, oh, being a superhero, that'd be fun, but it's not. Not for Peter. It's destroyed like just about every relationship that he has, and it's just ruining his life. He is writing this paper on Otto Octavius, and we get introduced to Dr. Connors, and Dr. Connors even says, like, if you don't like turn this paper in, like, I'll fail you. Like Peter could be sacrificing his future career to be Spider-Man.
Again, bit part, but Dylan Baker as Dr. Connors, he would have been a fucking great Lizard.
He would have, yeah.
I
such a missed
him
opportunity.
Like he's great in like Trick or Treat, one of my favorite movies, and then like Happiness. He's an awful person in that movie. He's great at playing awful characters. I forget, there was like a scene I saw. I didn't even see the show, but I saw a scene from like some TV show he was in recently, who just like murders a bunch of people, and I was like, holy shit. This guy is just great at playing these villains who like look unassuming, and that I'm still like pissed that we just don't have more of these this series,
Yeah, because it even showed him he didn't have an arm in the scenes he was in. So like the idea was always like kind of there for him to become the Lizard.
Which was kind of great because like as a kid I never knew that was like the Lizard or anything. I didn't know that was supposed to be a thing. So it's just kind of like, oh, he's just missing an arm. That's like a neat like thing to like have for this character, and not like have it be a big deal or anything.
Yeah, it's never even talked about in the movie.
Yeah, but that would have been like such a great.
Yeah, it's almost just easy to miss too because of that.
Yeah,
like it's never talked about.
I think I did miss it the first time. I didn't even like.
Yeah, because it doesn't.
Yeah, notice.
It's not like it shows. Like it just shows a sleeve or something with nothing there or anything.
Yeah,
there's no focus on it. There's no mention about it. It can be very easy. I think as a kid, I also missed it. Like I knew, oh, Dr. Connors is the Lizard. I knew that as a kid, but I didn't notice the arm not being there when I first saw it because it's easy to miss. Yeah, it's just like almost a subtle detail. Really liked it, and yeah, it stinks that we never get a payoff to that though, because it's like it was there, it was right there. I actually Dr. Connors was even talked about in the first Spider-Man too.
That's right. Yeah.
Like something about like Dr. Connors like fired him for something. Just kind of this quick throwaway line.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's like, it's like, oh, like so he worked for Dr. Connors, like doing we don't know what, and that's never referenced in Spider-Man 2 or 3. So it was probably just like a throwaway line in that movie. I don't know if they were like he probably didn't have like an idea to really put in Dr. Connors for the second one. Just kind of like how Eddie is a throwaway line in Spider-Man 1 too, where Robbie says like we've had Eddie working on this for weeks, which is probably was supposed to be reference to Eddie Brock.
Oh,
I don't know if you caught that. Yeah, it's very easy to miss. It just says Eddie. It doesn't say Eddie Brock. It just Eddie, but it's probably a reference to Eddie Brock, since Eddie Brock worked for the Bugle.
I didn't even.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that was there.
Yeah, it can be very easy. It's very subtle. It can be very easy to miss because
Huh.
you maybe hear Eddie and don't think anything of it, but it's like it's most likely reference to Eddie Brock.
Okay, that makes
But
sense.
obviously, we don't. He doesn't start working there until Spider-Man 3 because I think it was just tied up to this throwaway line. That's why he probably didn't say Eddie Brock, just said Eddie. But it's like that's probably like a little Easter egg there. But it was, I think, the same with just mentioning Dr. Connors in the first one, kind of like just throwaway line. Like here's a reference, might do something with that, might not. So just fun little fact that you I guess did not know. So now you know.
Yeah, I definitely remembered the Connors line, but yeah, Eddie, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I like how they were just setting up things. It makes it feel like it's not, because I feel like comic book movies now are very much like, and even back then, were like, you know, we'll set up something in like a teaser at the end of the movie,
Yeah.
or like, you know, just kind of like, oh, this villain is contained to this movie, this villain is contained to this movie. But I like how much this series seemed to be like,
We
here,
even
let's like build up characters throughout this series.
we even get a Doctor Strange reference in this movie,
That's right.
which is aged very well.
Yeah, it's like so weird.
It is weird how it works. How the one character, the one other Marvel character that was ever referenced in this movies, Sam Raimi would go on to direct a Doctor Strange
Yeah,
movie.
totally
It's perfect.
bizarre.
It just like it's like all the stars aligned.
Yeah, so
it's just so
strange.
funny.
I want to say one throwaway line from the first movie that I just thought about. Because I was thinking like, oh yeah, like he goes up to Betty Brant with the check and doesn't cover the advance. I love in the first movie when he like first meets her and he's just like,
I'm Peter Parker.
I'm Peter Parker.
I'm a photographer.
Yeah, it's like so awkwardly.
I know. Toby is so good at making that happen like organically though. It doesn't feel forced with him. Like he's just so good at doing that. Kind of like with Michael Cera, how Michael Cera is like perfect at being awkward.
Being awkward, yeah.
Like it seems like it just comes naturally to him. It's just like that good at it. Toby is like right at home there. Just so good at feeling that way. A lot better. Like no digs to Andrew Garfield, but I don't know if like Andrew Garfield was like kind of trying for that. And it could just be like directing wise, like they just couldn't direct him well enough. But it just,
all these movies are a collaborative effort, so it's like we don't want to shit on just the actor here.
Yeah, like I'm not saying like Andrew Garfield wasn't able to act like that, but yeah,
I think it's like
whenever he tried to, it just didn't work.
Yeah, I think he like played the part okay, but like also he like I don't know, Andrew Garfield's like a little bit too good looking.
Yeah, where Toby just looks like kind of regular guy. Yeah. Nothing like stands out about him, so it works.
Yeah,
and Andrew Garfield is like, there's no way this dude would get bullied. Look at him.
Yeah,
he'd be like one of the cool, popular, like hot guys. Like, look at him.
Yeah, it doesn't feel the same.
No.
But yeah. What else happens in the first like 10 minutes of this movie?
Oh yeah,
that is awful. For
how long has this review been going on? And we've like only talked about basically the first couple scenes.
I don't know how long it's been.
Okay,
but we gotta just keep going.
Okay, so
I guess.
Oh yeah, okay. So after all this, it's Peter goes home and it's his birthday. All this happened on his birthday, so he goes home
and he didn't even realize it.
No, I don't. I think it seems like he didn't. Like
because he says like, "What's the occasion?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although that seems like a little like kind of playing along, but yeah, I think it's pretty clear he didn't even realize it was his own birthday. So yeah, he got fired on his birthday and almost fired from his other job on his birthday. It just hasn't, and then he didn't get the money because of the advance. So it hasn't been the best day for him. So it just again, it's almost like comical. Where all this bad stuff happens to him, it's like, oh, and it's your birthday. All this happened on your birthday, of course. But Harry and MJ and Aunt May are all there. All the people he cares about the most, and we get more the tension from Harry and Peter from what was set up in the first one, where Harry is saying like, oh, well, you were out late. taking pictures of that menace, that bug, Spider-Man, who killed my father, by the way. I hate that guy. You were taking his pictures, weren't you? And obviously Peter is in a really weird position because like that's me. Can't tell him that, but there's that tension there.
Yeah.
That's there throughout the movie, and then of course just kind of like escalates, and we'll get into that. But there's that tension there, and he gets to see Mary Jane again, and just kind of once again like he really loves her, and like I can't be with her, and that's painful for him. And then we also get to see that Aunt May's losing her house, or she's going to lose her house.
Yeah.
And again, like a really great scene with him and Rosemary Harris, where she falls asleep and he wakes her up, and she is missing Ben because she's dreaming, and she says
God.
Ben in her dream, and she tries to give him just $20 because she barely has any money herself, but she knows like that Peter's struggling just a lot too, so she tries to do something for him, and it's a very real scene because there's definitely scenes like this or where this happens to people or family tries to give you just like a little bit of something, like, and they can't give a lot. She doesn't have a lot to give, but she gives what little she does because she loves Peter, even though she needs it, and he tries not to take it because of course he feels guilty. He can't take it. She needs this, and she gets upset, of course, like it's just not much, just take it. And you get to see just again the effects of the first one, losing Uncle Ben. And even though it's been 2 years, she spent a lot of her life with her husband, and even though it's been 2 years, it's like it's not any easier. And of course Peter feels responsible, so you can see him pretty much almost tearing up in this scene.
Yeah, I know.
Very appropriate.
And it again, the acting is so good. Like between these two, they like especially have like really good chemistry.
Yeah.
That scene, that part where Aunt May mistakes like Peter for Ben. Like when she's waking up, it's like heartbreaking.
Poor Aunt May. I want her to be happy.
Yeah, I know. It's like, that's another thing, is just like you like all these characters, like even Harry, it's like you want him to just be like a good person and not be so obsessed with revenge. Because it's like he's Peter's best friend, and you want it to go okay for Peter as well. Just like a great, just again, the movie like sets up everything so well. And then I think like Peter goes out to take the trash and then talks to
and MJ's there, and we get like a familiar scene with them out in their backyards, kind of like a callback to the first one. And there's obviously some tension between them from what happened there, and there's obviously that these two have feelings for each other, and we get the it was nice seeing you tonight, Peter. Boy, yeah.
It's so good.
It's so good. So awkward, so cheesy, so great.
It's hilarious.
But just this awkwardness between them where they both obviously clearly have feelings for each other. But then MJ's like, I'm seeing somebody, and I don't really know like how to feel. But
it's like another just thing to throw on Peter,
but it's
the script.
I could see some people like, because people kind of like to rag on Mary Jane in these movies, but it's kind of like what we said if you saw our first one, is she's in love with Peter and she can't be with him. Like he said no. So she's trying to fill that void. She's trying to move on and find somebody else, but she,
I think it's
she says that to she says that to Peter to see his reaction, because I think she's hoping like, no, you need to be with me. I love you, and she doesn't get that. But she's trying to move on, but she still clearly loves Peter, so she's like kind of just seeing how he'll react to these things, which I get it, and I think people are a little bit too harsh on her in this.
Definitely. Like I think it's realistic. It's very.
It's like, what is she supposed to do?
I could see someone doing that.
It's not like she's demanding Peter like, no, you have to be with me. She's trying to like kind of move on, but still trying to let Peter know. It's like, I'm seeing the sky. You know, if you want to say anything to me, maybe
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah, and then
No.
she gets excited when he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna see her play tomorrow."
Yeah, you know, and of course she's
Yeah.
you know, when we flash forward a little bit to the night of the performance, she's, you know, her, I guess, coworker, or, you know, the person that's in the play with her is like, "Oh, you seem like kind of jittery tonight. You're extra excited."
Yeah.
And we know that she's excited because, oh, Peter's going to be there. I want to do a good job, show Peter and all that. So yeah, you get some of that.
Yeah.
Kind of like the fallout from how one ended, seeing where the relationship is now, and how they're both still like pretty crazy for each other, but, you know, Peter is sticking to, you know, his decision that he made in the first one. That's like, I can't be with her, and I want to so badly, and she wants to be with him, but it's like he just, you know, won't return my feelings, you know, and she doesn't know why yet. So it's just everything that we're seeing in like that scene is just like paying off from the first movie. It's set up in the first one, and we're seeing just like the continuation of it, like the results of it. It's all
Yeah.
done really well, and we get, oh boy, yeah, and all the
yeah.
glory, all the glory for that.
Yeah, and then I think after this he goes back to his apartment, which Mr.
Mr. Dickovich,
Mr. Dickovich, yeah, who I believe that actor passed away pretty recently,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
did. It's sad.
I don't remember his name. I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Yeah, we
like
get to see Mr. Dickovich, and he's, of course, like a month late on his rent because he's getting fired from his jobs, and he has probably like a hard time of Jameson like paying him like decently for the Spider-Man pictures. So he's behind in his rent.
Wait, did he pass away? I don't think
I thought he did. Oh, didn't he? I thought he did.
It doesn't say he's
Okay, maybe he
passed
didn't
away
then. I thought I
on.
heard that he passed away too. Okay.
I thought I heard that too. Maybe that was like a hoax or something.
Maybe. Okay. I thought I heard about that too. So I guess we were both wrong.
Thank God he's still alive.
Yeah, that's cool. I
yeah,
know. I was so hoping
funny.
at the end of No Way Home, like when Peter got the apartment, that he would show up. I'm not gonna lie.
That would have
like,
been great.
How great would that have been? But anyways, we're gonna keep talking about Spider-Man 2 here. But yeah, we get the introduction to Mr. Dickovich and Ursula, I believe is her name.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Ursula. And that $20 that Aunt May gave him, that was like a pretty heartbreaking scene. He just like, all I got for this week is 20. Mr. Dickovich just like snatches it.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
everything goes wrong for Peter.
It's pretty much. And then like you see him come into the actual place he lives, and it's just like this tiny little dump of an apartment. Just like showing again, it's like if he didn't have to be Spider-Man, he could actually focus on school and work. He'd probably live in a nicer place. Yeah. But because he can, you know, barely make ends meet, and he's behind his rent, everything, it's like this is the best he can probably do with where he lives. Yeah, once again, it's like, you know, he has nothing to show for being Spider-Man. Like his relationships with everybody is either not great or strained. He doesn't have, you know, he has like no money. He has a crappy place to live, to come home to. No one to come home to either, you know, living by yourself. And yeah, it's just kind of like you said, it's like nothing goes right for Peter. Nothing's going right. He's just, you can tell he's pretty miserable. Then
I think, it feels like the only thing that does kind of go right for him in these first 15 minutes or so is like, oh, like Harry happens to like be working with Dr. Octavius, who Peter is writing a paper for.
Yeah, and he says that he'll let him meet Otto.
Yeah, but then that doesn't really turn out to be a good thing.
Yeah, obviously that ricochets and other stuff. I think after the scene where he gets home from his apartment, he gets he's starting to get dressed up and ready to go to the play, because it's, you know, it was going to be the next night anyway. So I think it goes to that scene, unless there's something else. I don't think I'm wrong.
I think he goes to school, and that's where he misses.
Yeah, you're right. The Dr. Connors. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's where we get that scene at Dr. Connors, and you know he's going to fail if he can't do this paper, which is already behind on this paper. He hasn't started it yet, really. So again, like he just hasn't had time to do anything because of Spider-Man stuff. And then we get the scene where he's getting ready to go to Mary Jane's play, and I really like the duality of it, showing like the suit, his regular suit and the Spider-Man suit next to each other.
Oh yeah, I thought that was great too.
and showing like the double life and everything. And he puts a suit on, everything, go into the play, and of course something happens. He has to stop these burglars,
Yeah.
which leads to a lot of funny. Once again, more funny extras. I like the cab is coming at the crowd of people and he webs it. I love how that's shot too, like how you just see it stop and then like you go behind and you see the webs there. Great,
Yeah.
great shot how it's done. But I even just love the extra. But like, go Spidey, go! I just like the extras and stuff like that. And the two kids that see him do the flip, and like, oh, how'd you do
Yeah.
that? He's like, eat your green veggies. I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah.
what my mom was saying. Like
These
the
two kids, I
extras.
was like, these kids have got to be
something and something from
I,
something.
I feel like I'm gonna look.
All right. Well, I guess while you're doing that, I'll keep like talking about the movie then.
They're credited as amazed kids.
Well, they were amazed and they're kids, so it's accurate.
Apparently, one of the kids was in the Haunted Mansion movie.
Oh, okay, that's funny. Yeah,
that's
I can
kind of
see
cool.
that. They came out Spider-Man 2, and I think Haunted Mansion came out like around the same time, so that makes sense. I think Haunted Mansion came out in 2005. It's scary if I got that right.
2003.
Okay, I was off.
That was close.
Okay, so that came out. Haunted Mansion came out a year before Spider-Man 2.
I would have thought 2005 as well. I don't. Huh.
I was close.
I'm,
I was close, at least. So leave me alone.
I don't know. He was probably a kid in like lots of other stuff.
Probably. But just like even the extras like that are all fun. Have something.
Yeah,
to add.
every extra is like you wouldn't be surprised if they were like if they got big later or something.
Yeah. So and then we lead to I'm sure probably one of your favorite parts.
The greatest. Well, okay. I think Bruce Campbell's cameo in the third movie is the best. But
I'm saying like one of your favorite scenes in Spider-Man 2, probably, right?
Yes,
it's pretty great. So he goes in. He's late to the movie, and Bruce Campbell is like an usher or something for tickets.
I believe he's probably credited as like obnoxious. He's Snooty Usher.
Snooty. Okay, well there you go.
Is his credit?
Yeah, because he goes in and it's like, oh, shoe, tie. Can I help you?
Yeah.
It's like Peter's like, I came to see the play. I got to get in here. He just will not let Peter in because the doors are remain closed while the play's in. And I just love how he says like, oh, well, Miss Watson asked me to come see this play, but not to come late.
Yeah.
I mean, he ain't wrong, but it's like,
yeah, that's kind of the thing. It's like Peter is sort of like at fault for a lot of things, but it's also like you can understand why he's late. You can understand like why. It's
not like he was late because he was goofing off. Like there, Spider-Man duties. He was saving people, he was stopping criminals that could have killed people. So yeah, he's late, but it's not for a bad reason. It's being Spider-Man. It's saving people. So you don't fault him for that.
Cat.
But yeah, there goes my cat. You don't fault him for that, but at the same time, nobody else knows that. He's Spider-Man, obviously, so it's just they just see him as like you're just someone who's just always late to stuff, and you never have like a good reason for it because he can't tell them that. So
it's like you want him to tell like at that point, And then I like when he calls Mary Jane afterwards and is like, on the phone, like it just goes straight to messaging machine, and like. Yeah, he's just saying like, isn't it crazy how complicated a simple thing like being somewhere at 8 can be?
For him,
it's
it is.
Oh man, it's
for him it is.
It's a great line, and then like he doesn't even have enough money to continue the call.
Yeah,
so he's just like basically just to an empty line, just says like I'm Spider-Man, but trying to like say it to Mary Jane.
I like that we actually get Mary Jane coming into during the message, and she's I think justifiably angry because of course she doesn't know. She just sees someone that she's close with and keeps breaking his promises to her. And you can't fault her for that because if we were in her position, it's like I want you to show up for something. You're my friend and everything, and you never do. It's like I'd be mad too. So like you understand where everybody's coming from. It's like no one's at fault, but it's just that's the situation. These are the consequences that Peter has to endure being Spider-Man. So again, like it's so almost mean spirited to Peter, over the top, but just is supposed to drive home the message. So it's work. It's effective.
Yeah.
It's good. It's really good.
And then I think this is where Doc Ock finally comes in, right?
Yeah, I think it's either the next scene or the next scene or something like that. But just about at this part is where Peter and Harry
Harry introduces
introduces
Peter
to Otto
Dr.
and his wife
Dr.
Rosie.
Otto Octavius.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we get the scene with them, and Peter's kind of concerned about the experiment, everything's going to go right, and they kind of hit it off. And then he kind of gets some advice about Mary Jane, because they ask about his love life and everything, and he's not even sure about like what their relationship is, because they ask if he has a girlfriend, and he's like, well, I'm not really sure. Obviously they're not together, but Peter, it's just like, it's Peter's way of just like saying things are complicated. It's like, if I wasn't Spider-Man, we would be together.
Yeah.
So, and he's not really, I think, sure about like how MJ still feels about him. I think he maybe can tell it's like she still has like something for me. So he's he gives this kind of like vague answer, like, I'm not sure. And he's kind of given some advice like, oh, try giving her poetry, and you can't hide something as important as love. It's just gonna eat away at you. So Peter kind of like takes that advice, tries to like read a little bit of poetry. Kind of funny. Like, I think you see him at the like laundromat, and then like he puts the red and blue Spider-Man suit with his whites, and it stains.
Yeah, and they're all
white stuff. It's like, come on, Peter.
I like how at first, like, Octavius is kind of like, I don't want to talk to like this student, really,
he's
like,
busy, but Harry's paying the bills, so I kind of have.
And then they like actually get along.
Yeah, they build like that kind of friendship there, because they're both geniuses, and they have all this science stuff to talk about, and it's almost like this kind of short little like father son, kind of relationship almost, like, because he's also like teaching Peter like his advice about like, here's how you get a girl.
Yeah, so that's what I like about the Spider-Man movies, is like Peter always has some like actual relationship with the villain.
Yeah,
they're not just like a lot of people complain about the MCU movies. I hate to like just keep complaining about the MCU movies, but I guess it's just like the easiest thing to compare them to. But like the villains in those movies are often just like, oh, it's a bad guy who does a bad thing, and then it's kind of it. Yeah, I like how Spider-Man it's all about the characters and how their relationships with each other like grow, change, fall out, and everything. But yeah, I like how Octavius is like, first kind of whatever, like, I don't want to talk to this student, and then it's like, Peter, what have we been talking about for the last hour and a half? Like they've been talking for an hour and a half with each other, like, and they're friendly. Like, I think that's just great,
Yeah, I think it does a really good job of building up like the relationship. That way, when he does eventually become Doc Ock, there's, it causes Peter like this grief where, again, he has to fight somebody he cares about. I mean, he doesn't really realize that in the first one until the very end, whereas this one, it's kind of like right away, because Doc Ock doesn't wear a mask or anything, so you know who he is. Yeah. But it almost makes it like a little bit more of a personal villain throughout the movie, as opposed to one where he didn't know who the Green Goblin was until the end. He didn't know he was fighting Norman until the end. Whereas this one, he knows it's Doc Ock the whole time.
Yeah, it's very, very well done, and it's nice that it's just very different from the first movie.
Yeah, Doc Ock in this is a very different villain than Green Goblin.
Yeah, it's almost, I mean, he's almost tragic in a way. Like, this creation that he has made is like inadvertently killed his love, and that's really
this was
like great. I don't know, just great writing.
Yeah, especially since like this was his life's work, and it ultimately is what causes his demise, because first it ends up killing Rosie, and then it obviously leads to him that goes to the end of the movie, but just really quick, him building it again, and then sacrificing himself to stop it. So it's this thing that he's just built his whole life to ultimately causes the demise of the person he loves the most and of himself. So it's very tragic
Yeah.
character.
Yeah, it's really, yeah, really well done, and I love Alfred Molina
Yeah, no, he
as
was
Doc Ock.
fantastic in this role. He's also one of those actors where he's really not bad in anything he's in, even though he might
Yeah,
not be in like the best movies or something. He was in Pink Panther 2, which those are not good movies, but I like them. But he was in the second one.
I know he was in Magnolia. He's really good in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great
But it's
actor.
like, I'm just picking movies where it's like, yeah, this movie itself isn't really good. Even though I do like those Steve Martin Pink Panther movies, but I'm not gonna say they're good, but I do like them. But even like in something like that, he's good in that. He's not ever like bad with what he's in role he's in. He works
Yeah.
with what he's given, and he's usually good in that. Like he's never bad. He's just one of those actors who's good in pretty much anything he does. So yeah, he is a fantastic Doc Ock. A lot of people love his version of Doc Ock, because a lot of the times I think this was one of the first versions where it kind of built more of a relationship with him and Peter before becoming a villain. Because I think in the comics, when Doc Ock first appeared, he was just kind of like another kind of villain who didn't have any relationship with Peter when he became Doc Ock. That's just like how they met, was as enemies. Whereas, and I don't know if there was a comic that did this before, but I know the '90s Spider-Man TV show that I talked about in the first movie review, my introduction, is this that also had Doc Ock and Peter like having this kind of student-teacher relationship first, because Peter took classes from Doc Ock like before the series takes place. So he actually has a little bit of a relationship with Doc Ock before in that too. And I think a lot of things, I don't know if that was the first one. I don't know, but like before this point, we didn't really get to see a whole lot of versions of these characters having a relationship before. And now it's a little bit more common. Especially like the PS4 Spider-Man game again has them as like a mentor and student before he becomes Doc Ock, and there's been other stuff too where that's become a little bit more popular to do, because it builds up the relationship with them. Because Doc Ock is one of Spider-Man's most iconic villains. I'd say like Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and Venom are usually the top three villains. If you ask people like what's Spider-Man's most iconic villain, it's probably going to be one of those three that people are going to talk about. So I think when Doc Ock was becoming like a really big villain for Spider-Man, they wanted to kind of add that extra layer to it, because I think that's, especially with Green Goblin becoming Spider-Man's like arch nemesis, was the fact that he was his best friend's father, and there was that like relationship there. Whereas all of his other villains pretty much were just, he met them as Spider-Man, like Chameleon or Rhino or Shocker, Vulture, Mysterio, Sandman, whatever. Osborn was like the first one where he like knew who he was before he became that villain. And I don't think at that point like that was like really terribly common with comic book villains. So
hold on one second.
My
headphones came.
Technical difficulties.
Sorry about that. I don't know if it's
how's my audio now?
There you go.
All right.
The audio.
Sorry about that. My headphones.
Yeah, no problem. I just talked a lot there too, so you can feel free to add like anything there.
Yeah, I don't know. Just Doc Ock is just like a really good villain in this. And it's like great to have that kind of tragic villain that you actually sympathize for. I don't know. I think you said most of it. But yeah, the scene where the whole fusion reactor, kind of malfunctions is great. I love that shot of the glass going
towards Rosie. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like.
Yeah, and that's all. It doesn't
like really imply.
It's a pretty brutal scene, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Without showing like the glass actually cutting her or anything, like obviously exactly what's happening, and how it's really haunting just seeing like the glass like slowly come and like seeing her reflection in it before it kills her.
Yeah.
Is really. It's just violent. It's just like a violent scene. It's pretty brutal. which and it's almost nothing compared to the scene that comes almost right after
Oh yeah, the
the hospital,
hospital scene, right?
which I think is like one of the most brutal scenes in any comic book movie, especially like a PG-13 comic book movie, I should say.
Yeah.
Like it's a very brutal, violent scene.
I mean, it's like straight up from like a horror movie.
It really is. I mean, it's like that scene. Like as a kid, terrified me. Like when I would rewatch it as a kid, I think I would sometimes skip that scene because it just it's like a scary scene. It's very brutal. Like if we would talk about it, it's like it's so well set up too. How he gets taken to the hospital, and because of how the tentacles, the claws are attached to him, like through the spine, like they have to saw it off of him.
Oh yeah,
the way it like ejects into his spine with the needles.
That to me is like the worst part. It's just like seeing those little things go into his spine.
Yeah, I like you even get other people's reaction, like them going in the movie itself, going like could there have been a better way to do that?
Yeah, body like stuff like that. I like.
Well, yeah, it's like just think of like a whole bunch of needles like going like that many going into your back, like in the
way like he reacts and the rest of the people there react to it.
I can't imagine what it feel like to move with something like that in your back, and he just kind of like moves around. Like after that, it's like, oh gosh, it'd feel weird.
It would be cool to have like 4 tentacles, though. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, you get a lot of work done that way. Are you trying to? But yeah, the scene with the doctors and everything, just how brutal it is. But I like how they're about to start working on him, and then like you hear the sound, and it's like he looks over and like it's not there. Which you think would be like, okay, where did that go?
Was the implication that it wasn't there? I thought the implication was just that whatever it was hanging on was like just moved.
I think when it went back to the scene, like it wasn't there, but he just kind of like goes back to like doing, and then like he sees, in like was it like a reflection or something, like the tentacle like coming out, and it just like grabs his face.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just have this very brutal scene of like the tentacles just kind of coming alive and killing, like throwing the doctors around and like taking one of them and like shoving up into the light and like electrocutes him. One lady gets dragged into like this dark corner and her nails are scraping on the floor, and you just the screams and everything you're hearing. Oh man, it's brutal. It's violent.
Without having to be gory or anything.
Yeah, it's not gory, but I think, especially I think for PG-13, like it was really pushing it. I could be wrong, like because I just think it's it's not bloody or anything, but it's just a very brutal scene. Like all these people are being murdered in pretty violent ways.
I have to agree, it's brutal. I guess like I'm too used to it. Like I don't know, because it felt very Evil Dead for sure.
Yeah. Right? I mean, I think just for like a comic book superhero, like PG-13 movie, like especially compared to like anything in the MCU or something like that, it just like it's more violent than some of the stuff there, I think.
Oh yeah, it's definitely more violent.
Because it's not like it's just like a quick punch or slash. It's like these people are getting slammed into stuff. You have this one doctor who takes like the chainsaw and he's trying to, and even though you don't like see him die, like like all those tentacles basically just come up and smash his face.
Yeah,
like that's what happens. But yeah, it obviously doesn't show like any stuff like that, but exactly how he dies.
Yeah, I have to say, like, I loved how much of the tentacles like are practical.
Yeah, that definitely needs to be said.
It's actually like a real thing in front of the camera.
Yeah, they used a lot of practical effects and props with the tentacles, which
it looks.
That's not something they do these days.
Yeah. And it just holds up so much better. Like, I think when I was a kid, I probably just assumed it was CGI, but then like looking at it, I'm like, wow, that's like
a lot of it isn't
there. It's crazy. It looks great.
I think the only time it's really CG is probably like when they're fighting on buildings and everything, and that's
when it has to do like really complicated moves and swift moves,
like the scene that's in your background, like that's all obviously CG.
Oh yeah, this shot is obviously CG.
Yeah, but they still look, even like this when they did use the CG, it still looked good. It still like I think holds up pretty good. But But yeah, a lot of practical effects still used in this movie, and yeah, the tentacles look great. Like they feel like they're actually there because a lot of times they are actually there.
Yeah, and even the CGI, like I think looks still really good.
Yeah, it's a huge improvement over the first ones.
Definitely, yeah.
That was definitely one thing where it definitely went, way. It's just way better than how it was in the first one. I'm sure because this one had a bigger. I think this one had like a $60 million higher budget than the first one. I looked that up really quick.
That's pretty big.
So
yeah.
I'm sure like a lot of that went to CG, especially because I'm sure they knew like okay, these guys are going to be fighting on buildings and everything. That would have been probably hard to do with these practical effects and making it look realistic. So they just went with the CG. But the CG I think holds up pretty well.
Yeah, I would agree. It's definitely it's much better than the first one. Yeah, the whole hospital scene's like great.
Yeah, I was like, this is definitely a scene that Julian loves, I'm sure.
Yeah,
it's a really good scene to show like kind of
like
but I think it's a really good scene to also show like how the threat these things are.
Yeah.
And how dangerous that they can be.
And I like that it happens without like Dr. Otto being conscious,
Yeah, this whole thing happened. They're just like subconsciously protecting him because now that the inhibitor chip on his spine is broken, they're in control and they're about to be sawed off, and that's a way of protecting themselves.
Yeah.
So it's not like the claws themselves. I don't know if call them tentacles or claws, or I keep going back and forth between them. I never know what to call them. We'll just call it claws. But they're
not
really
like
they're not
tentacles.
evil.
I don't know.
Yeah, they're not like evil. They're just like kind of trying to survive in their own way.
Yeah.
But they make him do evil things eventually. But
and then I think after this, like we get a scene of the Daily Bugle members like talking about Dr. Otto. Yeah, and giving him his name.
I
love that every time like one of these villains like shows up, like the way they get their silly name, silly for like realistically, I guess.
Yeah, I like that. Jameson's the one that names them usually.
Yeah, that's a good way of like kind of having the sillier comic book stuff, I guess.
I love the scene though when he like calls for Hoffman, and Hoffman's just like right there already, and like he does like a double take almost like Hoffman, and he's like does a double take like right here. It's like just double take like, oh okay, you're there. And then of course they discuss the names. He's like, Doc Ock, it sucks. Science Squid sucks. Doctor Strange, it's good, but it's taken. And of course he like Doc Ock, like he comes up with it, and Hoffman's just like one of those guys, like he wants to make J. Jonah happy.
Yeah,
he wants to tell him things that'll make it so it's like it's good name. So
I have to say, like, okay, lots of Jameson lines make me laugh, but the one thing that made me laugh like really hard for some reason this time, and it's kind of later on in the movie, but it's after Spider-Man, like after Peter quits being Spider-Man, and it's like Jameson, Hoffman, and I think Robbie's there as well, and they're like all talking, and like Hoffman's like, Spider-Man was the only one who could have stopped Dr. Octavius. And Jameson just like rolls his eyes, is like, yes, I know. Like, it made me laugh so hard. I don't know why.
It's like finally having to acknowledge it.
Yes,
but like he does it like so begrudgingly. It's so in character though. That's great.
Yeah. And I think after the Doc Ock gets his name, I know we get the scene at the gala, or like whatever that was, a ball, whatever it's called, and
that whole thing was just let's torture Peter even more.
I know,
that
it's
whole thing.
All torture Peter.
It's all torture Peter. He can't even get a drink. Like he's trying to go for stuff. Yeah, Nerf. He keeps. I just loved how he kept going for things, and then like he finally gets like a cup at the end, and it's empty. It's like just
that was great.
The ribbon, the cherry on top to just this is the worst night of my life.
At that point, I would just like thrown the thing.
Pretty much, like,
aside.
like his
Like, I
best
can't
friend.
catch a break.
Yeah, because like in that whole thing, like his best friend pretty much just like cuts him off for good, and then
Yeah.
the woman he loves gets engaged to the son of someone who
Of
basically
Jameson.
of Jameson, who makes almost a living criminalizing him.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And then he's
bad night
just like
for Peter.
he's forced to take the picture of
Picture. Yeah, he's forced to take the picture.
like,
I
just
think
nothing
he
goes
also,
right.
yeah, I think even before that, like he has like an argument with Mary Jane, like you're not there, you're my best friend, and you can't even be there to see my play, and everybody else is there to see. Even my father, we talked about in the first one, like she she references the fatherkin, even though it's just for cash. He even came, and Peter hasn't.
Yeah, even
So
her sick mother got out of bed
out of
to see
bed.
the play. Yeah.
And it's like, and you're like my best friend, and you can't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like Peter's like just at his lowest point almost. And I think it's
I think this
was it
is where
after
he's swinging.
this? Yeah, it's where he's swinging and he loses his powers.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this is it. The first
I
time
think
that
so
happened.
too. I just
I
watched
mean,
the movie last night. I should know this.
Yeah, I should too. But sometimes I forget.
But
Like
sometimes it's
I
hard
remember
to
all the
remember
scenes, but
exactly.
sometimes just like the exact orders. But I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
because like this is almost the lowest Peter has ever been. Because like
Yeah.
his relationships weren't good with everybody before, but it's almost just like Mary Jane and Harry have almost like just cut him off now completely.
He
And now
even tries to read poetry to Mary Jane and it doesn't work.
Yeah, timing, dude. Timing. Bad.
Yeah.
What did
read
you
the room.
expect? Like, read the room, dude. Like that. Stop. Terrible. Yeah, that one's like, come on, Peter. I know you're desperate here, but read the room. She not in the
love
mood
he's like-
for this.
He's like, I've been reading poetry.
Oh yeah, she's
And
like,
she's
whatever
just like,
that
whatever
means.
the hell that means.
It's like, pretty much. Yeah.
That was very like, yeah, that how else is she supposed to take that?
Yeah, you can't really blame her for that. Like, time and place, bro. Time and place. But yeah, at this point, it's probably like the lowest Peter's ever been.
Yeah.
This is the low point, and
Peter has to take the elevator. Well, Spider-Man has to take the elevator.
He loses his powers, and he has to take the elevator, which is a funny scene.
Okay. Is this guy someone?
I think he is, but I don't know.
He's got to be. Let's see. Hal Sparks. I guess he was in Dude, Where's My Car?
Oh, really? That's funny.
Yeah, I don't know. He's been in other things. Nothing I would know, I guess. But yeah, again, just like that actor does a really good job in this scene.
Yeah. So
asking him about the suit. Yeah, and then I'm trying to think what happens after this.
I think now this isn't where I think the bank robbery happens around this time with Doc Ock, because when he breaks out of prison, like we also get a scene of him like deciding that he, like he first it's like, oh, I should basically kill myself because my Rosie's dead, my life's work is dead, and I killed people with these things, and these things belong at the bottom of the river, and I say frankly so do I, because of that. But they're able now that they have
he's
control.
at his lowest point too. I always like the parallels between Peter and the villains.
Yeah,
in these movies. Yeah,
and then like what they do at their lowest points. Which for Doc Ock's credit, like he's not really in full control of himself. So it's like, he's almost like a slave to these things.
I don't think it's too big of an issue or anything, but like, why exactly do the claws make him build the thing again? It's sort of like, I guess I don't know, because that's their sole purpose of being made.
Yes. Yeah, you could probably argue something.
How would they
like
know that? Like, I think it's
you can nitpick that a little bit, but
it's a little bit of a stretch, but I think it's fine.
I
mean, you can say like maybe he's influencing the claws as much as they're influencing.
Yeah, there's always like kind of that debate there, is like who's influencing who.
Yeah.
How to what extent and everything. Because even like without that, like him coming to this conclusion, like I think would make sense. He's at his low point. his life's work. It's like, well, now that everything else is
Yeah.
gone, like I got to at least do this, so it wasn't like kind of all meaningless.
He doesn't like
Um,
have anyone to.
Yeah, there's nothing else he really has except
Yeah,
to do, you know, his life's work to finish it,
yeah,
or
and he
you
doesn't.
know,
It's like, okay, my wife is dead. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm monstrous anymore. In
Yeah.
a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get that, and then we get the scene, the bank scene, which
Yeah.
I also like before too. Like it's kind of going back from earlier. Like they're at the bank because Aunt May is trying to do something about
Get a loan.
get a loan so that she
Yeah.
doesn't have to move out of her house, and it doesn't work out. And then I like that she also like trying to get this free toaster or something, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, at least we get the free toaster. And it's like, oh no, you have to do this to get that. It's like, and they don't even get the free toaster.
Yeah, and we got to mention here Joel McHale.
Yeah, it was
Jeff
so funny.
Winger.
Like after watching Community and then like
Yeah.
watching Spider-Man 2, like, I was like, that's Joel.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
know.
that's funny. He's in there.
Yeah,
Obviously,
he's
like
funny in
we
this
like
scene.
Community, so that was like, oh, okay, hey, it's Joel.
Yeah.
So this is also the first scene where Doc Ock really becomes Doc Ock, and he's robbing the bank there, and obviously Peter's there, and he changes into Spider-Man. He's kind of fighting him a bit, and then like his powers are also not working again.
Yeah.
So, and I love the line where they're fighting with the money. He's tossing the money, and Spider-Man like grabs the money and throws it back, and here's your change.
Yeah.
We don't get like a whole lot of Spider-Man quips in these movies, but like when we get them, they're good.
Yeah.
So that one, that one always just stuck out to me because it's just funny. And then like that money, bag is so heavy and powerful. I guess like it hits Doc Ock and he like slams into the wall, and, like some of the wall breaks.
Yeah, I mean,
Just
it's like
like,
a
dang,
whole
son.
thing of, like coins. I think it
Yeah.
would hurt.
Yeah. So yeah, and then we get like the first kind of fight with them, and it's really great. Like they're fighting in the bank and they're tossing, he's using the claws to
Yeah.
toss the money, and he tosses like the bank vault door, and he tosses like car doors at him, and it's just really, really cool action sequence, and seeing what the claws can do, and just like a lot of really cool visual stuff, like great for action, obviously. And then like we see him take a hostage, and of course it's Aunt May who he picks from the crowd.
Yeah.
So now Peter's got to like fight Doc Ock and save his aunt. And Aunt May was great and all. Like Rosemary was great in this whole scene.
Oh yeah, when she like smacks Joel
yeah.
McHale's hand
Yeah,
when he
well-
picks up the coin.
Yeah, that was funny. Her doing that, and then
Like, ow!
yeah, her like trying to like grab onto stuff and just survive. And then I love, of course, when Spider-Man flings himself at Doc. Shame
Oh
on
yeah.
him, and she hits Doc and basically saves Peter because that might have killed him.
Yeah.
You know what? Most unrealistic thing. There's no way that she would not get a heart attack during all this.
Well,
Just
I mean,
saying.
how old is she supposed to be? She's
I
supposed to be. She's his aunt, not his like.
Yeah,
grand-
but she's older.
Yeah, she's old.
I'd probably get a heart attack if I was a hostage during this thing. I'm just,
That's true. Everyone would
joking
have
around.
some kind of trauma after
Yeah,
all
this thing
stuff.
was pretty. But Aunt May's just so cool. She doesn't. She helps out.
Oh,
Yeah,
God,
I think that's fun.
there's like Doc Ock's like climbing the building, and there's that one lady
Oh yeah,
like
Like,
goes
looks
to
out,
the window and she's just screaming her head off.
Yeah, that's great. I love the
and
extras.
runs right into the camera.
Yeah, and screams. I love it. Like all the extras are
Yeah,
are just
I guess I
something
should see
memorable.
if she's like from any.
You might as well.
I'm
Yeah,
checking everyone at
That
this
whole
point.
that whole fight sequence at the bank is great. And then I like how Aunt May kind of plays a part in that, and he saves Aunt May, and that kind of changes. That's I think when she learns like it's Peter. I don't know, just from hearing his voice or something, but she never flats out says she knows that Spider-Man's Peter, but it's like the way she talks to him and the things that she says. Because I think after that, oh no, I think wasn't it before the bank scene? A scene that I want to talk about is I'm trying to remember the order. No, maybe it's later. No, I think it's later. The scene where he tells Aunt May about Uncle Ben, I think is after. No.
Yeah, it's later. I don't. Right?
Yeah, I think it is later.
I think it's after he stops being Spider-Man. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it is. It is. Okay, so that hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
Um,
I have to say, I'm looking at the credits, and one of the doctors is John Landis, like the director of I think like Animal House and like American Wolf in London, I believe. Uh, he's like a big director. So I was like, I was surprised at that.
hmm.
Anyway, continue.
Yeah, I'm just kind of trying to remember like certain things order wise. Because yeah, I think after the whole bank scene, trying to remember. I think that's when the whole gallery scene is with him and MJ and Harry. It's after that, and that's when like he goes to the doctor and he's like trying to see if anything's wrong with him because he's having that kind of crisis where he doesn't really know what to do anymore. Like he doesn't want to be Spider-Man anymore, but he's obviously torn between doing the right thing and getting what he wants because this is just like at the lowest point of his life. And then he kind of has this realization where he wants to have this life as his own, and we have this really kind of emotional scene, I guess, like it's just in his head, but it's like it'd be him and Uncle Ben in the car, kind of like how it was in the first one. It's almost like
Yeah.
if he could talk with
No,
Uncle
this
Ben,
seems-
if Uncle Ben was alive, like they'd be having this conversation. And we hear again, with great power comes great responsibility, and Peter's just like, no, Uncle Ben, I can't do this. I want a life of my own. I'm in love with Mary Jane, and I can't have it, and I want it, and I'm not going to be Spider-Man anymore. And even like, it's not even the real Uncle Ben. It's just like the Uncle Ben in his head, but he's like, take my hand, and he says no, and you can just see how heartbroken Uncle Ben is. And it's not even
Yeah,
like the real Uncle Ben, but it's like it's so heartbreaking seeing Uncle
they
Ben.
like start the scene. They like both start the scene just crying.
Yeah,
Like they're already like tearing up. It's like so sad.
yeah. It's like this is just in his head. He's not even actually really having this conversation, but it's like he would be if Uncle Ben was alive. This is how it would go, and he's like kind of breaking Uncle Ben's heart here. So we have that really emotional scene there, and then I think after all that, he just
He throws the suit away.
he throws the suit away, which
Right?
that scene with the suit in the trash can and him walking away is straight from one of the covers of when he quits being Spider-Man in the comics. It's like that.
I felt like
It's
it had to have
right
been
out of
iconic.
right out of like the cover of the comic,
Yeah.
with it being on the trash can, and then we get this montage of him not being Spider-Man, and his life is a lot better. Like he's going to his classes on time.
The raindrops falling on my
Falling
head.
on my head.
From-
Yes,
from,
which I think was the first time I heard that song as a kid.
yeah,
song.
I just want to say that song, I'm pretty sure that song was like made for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Like it was written for that movie.
It worked great in this whole scene too. I love this
Yeah.
little montage.
Yeah, it's great. It's like again, I feel like this movie especially, like, definitely it balances the kind of cheesiness, I guess, like much better than the first movie.
hmm
Like
Yeah,
this
this
one's
one's not.
just cheesy, but it's not
Yeah,
like over the
It's
top.
no. I was about to say this isn't nearly as over the top. Even though I
Yeah.
like the over the top cheesiness from the first one, this one is a
Yeah.
lot more subtle. It's still cheesy, but it's just like you said, not as over the top. But I love this little sequence. I love Peter working on the bike, and then it comes loose,
Oh, yeah.
and then it like bounces out the window, and you got the person like, "Hey!" and he's like, "Sorry."
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like the scene where he's just kind of getting this hot dog, and he can see all these police go by and everything, and he just kind of like walks the other way because it's like, nope, I'm done with it. I can't do that
that's not
anymore.
my
I'm done with that life.
responsibility
It's not
anymore.
my responsibility anymore. And yeah, it just his life is a lot better. He has free time to go do stuff. He can work on his bike. He can go to school. He goes to Mary Jane's play finally, which like shocks her, like in the audience, and he's just like, there's that little people have like edited him into like other stuff with the little like wave he does. I just gotta say. But yeah, like he's trying to like kind of mend his relationship with Mary Jane, and he's kind of like trying to hint like I had these things I thought I had to do, but I don't have to do them anymore. He's like trying to tell her like hey, I'm not going to be as distracted. I'll be able to be there from now on. Punch me, I bleed.
Yeah.
And it's like trying to tell her without, hey, I'm not Spider-Man anymore. I was Spider-Man, but not anymore. Just he's trying now that he doesn't have to be in that life anymore. Like, no, I can have this. So he's trying to mend his relationships. And, she kind of brushes him off, but at the same time, she's hearing what he has to say and kind of acknowledges that he's different now. So we get that, and then we get probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and maybe it's yours too. Maybe you know which scene I'm talking about, because this scene is almost like right after that one. It's not quite, but because I think the one right after that is Jameson finding the Spider-Man suit, which is a pretty funny scene. Yeah, the scene where Peter finally kind of like builds up the courage to tell Aunt May that he's responsible for Uncle Ben's death. I love this scene.
It's so good.
It's so good.
I love there's like no music in it.
No music, no nothing. It's just them talking. And you don't really know where it's going at first.
But this scene could be in like an indie drama. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like an Oscar-winning scene.
It's so good. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. It's just pure acting with these two characters, with these two actors. And Peter, throughout this movie, like we haven't really talked about, like Aunt May says that she's like, oh, I'm responsible. It was all my responsibility, my doing that Uncle Ben died. Because like, oh, finally he wanted to drive you, and I should have said no. So she's been beating herself up. She misses him so much, and then she also blames herself. And Peter he'd rather Aunt May blame him than herself. So he's always wanted to tell her this, but he finally musters up the courage and says, like, I'm responsible. He explains to her the whole story. And you almost kind of like expect her like, oh, don't worry about it, Peter. But she's very taken back. This is very shocking to hear for her.
And I say anything.
She doesn't say anything. He tries to hold her hand. She kind of takes it back, and it's like she doesn't. It's not like she doesn't love Peter anymore, but she just looks so betrayed.
Yeah,
and I think it's a very human reaction. It feels like a very human reaction to me.
Yeah,
she just feels betrayed, and she doesn't know what to say, so she just leaves. And that's all you see of them for until they meet again next time. And Toby's like, the way he's acting, he's holding back tears. You can tell he's swallowing, doing these hard swallows. Like, it's hard for him to get these words out. It's difficult for him to finally tell this to her. He's having a hard time doing it. It's not just like, this is easy. He's choking, like kind of choking up. Like when people like do those like hard swallows, like it's hard to get these words out.
Yeah.
Just like subtle things like that. This is hard for him to tell her this.
It's hard not to just feel sad thinking of this scene.
Yeah.
And like,
because like, how would you tell someone this? Like, I'm the one responsible for, this person that we love's death.
Yeah. And I think this is like, this scene is the reason why Tobey Maguire, I think, is just the best Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, like, I think the material obviously brings that out. But like, I just like, oh my God, this scene is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just that shot of her just like getting up, just so taken aback, and then like just going upstairs. Yeah.
And no other dialogue is said. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
She doesn't need to say anything, and it says so much.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite scenes for sure. I love this scene. Sometimes I'll just see this scene on YouTube. I'll just look up the scene. So good.
It's great.
So
maybe the best scene in the movie, just from a character like standpoint, like acting.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's so good. And then like we get the next scene is pretty crazy too, because we get to see Harry again. And this is when Doc Ock comes up to him and threatens him like, yeah, you best give me that tritium, that sweet tritium. I want it. And he's like, dangles Harry over the building. It's like, okay, fine. here's how, you bring me Spider-Man, and it's yours.
Yeah, which I
This
love
is
how
Harry-
that
Yeah, like it's a good
naturally
way
that
for
feels.
Harry to like kind of get his revenge. Like this is the only person that could probably bring down Spider-Man, and I'm going to take my opportunity. And it's like, but he has to like tell him about like you got to go to Peter, but like don't. Even though at this point, Harry's cuts off Peter, like he still is like, well, don't hurt Peter though. Like he doesn't want Peter or anything to happen to Peter. Like even though he almost hates Peter, not hates Peter, but he's angry at Peter for not telling him about Spider-Man. He doesn't want Peter to be hurt.
Yeah,
So he still cares about Peter.
I love just like this kind of thing. I feel like in another movie would feel so like complicated or like too contrived. Like, oh yeah, like of course, like Doc Ock would go to this character because they know that character. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like other movies, that kind of thing would feel like, okay, it just feels so like overly written. That like all these characters know each other and everything, but I don't know, just the way they build this universe, it feels so natural.
Nothing feels
like,
forced here.
Of course like Doc Ock would go to Harry.
It's not like they just randomly bump into each other or something. Like, oh, this is convenient. Like Oscorp and has provided him what he needed, so of course he's got to go back to Harry if he wants more to build the machine, and Harry wants Spider-Man dead, or he wants to kill him himself, and he knows that Doc Ock's the only one that can do that. So it all makes sense. Like nothing feels forced. It just feels very natural where it headed this way. And like I said, I like that he doesn't, he kind of like, he's putting Peter in a dangerous position, obviously, but he doesn't want Peter to be hurt. And then we have like another really good scene where Peter, without his power still, sees a burning building.
Which kind of mirrors the
first
scene in
one.
The first movie. Yeah.
And he kind of like goes to like take off his clothes and change in the Spider-Man suit. It's like, oh yeah, I don't have it, but I can't just let people in there die. So he runs in there powerless essentially to save a child.
Yeah.
And he's able to save them, but then he gets told or he overhears the firemen saying, well, somebody else died on the third floor or something, and he hears that, and again he feels responsible, like after just saving somebody. It's like, oh, I can do this, I was able to do this and not even be Spider-Man. So but no, somebody else died, and he probably could have saved them if they were Spider-Man. So again, he's just like facing this crisis of I just can't have what I want. Even when he gives up being Spider-Man, the guilt from not being able to save people it just like tears him up.
It's a classic, like, we can't have it all,
Yep.
And I like this scene too, because like I said, like in the first movie, there's a scene with like a burning building where he saves a baby. And I feel like, again, and I feel like in other movies, like doing that kind of thing again would feel contrived, or feel like, okay, you're just repeating the same thing. But in this, it's really great, because it's like, okay, we saw how easily he did it in the first movie with powers as Spider-Man, and now we get to see like, what if he didn't have powers and he tried it, and he succeeds still,
barely.
You see like how difficult
they almost don't make it out there.
He like uses that mask to breathe after the firefighters get there. It's just like, just really great the way that all these movies feel connected like that. Just is like so great. And then what happens after this? I think he's like looking out the window, right? And
and that's kind of where he has the line like,
everything.
am I not supposed to have what I want, what I need?
And
then we have this like little scene with Ursula coming in and giving them like, oh, you want some cake? It's like kind of like
so sweet.
this like nice little moment where just like someone does this nice little thing. Like it's almost like this is the best thing that's happened to Peter this whole movie, is just, do you want a piece of cake? It's like finally like some little win for him.
It's like one of those scenes where if you like thought about it, it almost feels like, why was that there? But in the moment, it just like, why it's there. It's like, this needs to have this, like, something good needs to happen for Peter
Yeah.
and like make him realize again like why.
Yeah, it's
Just like-
it's also there to like the end of it. Ursula has like the note or something like, "Oh yeah, your Aunt May wanted to see you too." So it also is like
That
there
too,
to
yeah.
for that. But that's not like the main reasons there because that could have been done any other way. But yeah, just this nice little like moment for Peter, like this needed moment of this like this small victory of like it's not all hopeless.
Yeah.
Because then it goes in the scene, another great scene with Toby and Rosemary Harris, where she's, just selling the house. She's packing everything up, and she just says like, "Well, I'm losing the house, and I could keep it a little bit longer, but whatever. I'm just going to move now." And this is the first time they've seen each other since their last conversation,
Yeah.
and it's just like another great scene of, she's not, angry at Peter or anything. She understands, and she's, she says like it was hard to do what you did, but she's proud of him, and she still loves him and everything. And we get this really great conversation of like this little kid is helping her out, and he wonders where Spider-Man is, and we get everybody needs a hero. That speech from Aunt May, the speech that Peter needed to hear more than anything was that line from his aunt. I believe there's a hero in all of us, and just people need a hero. And you can see again like Peter almost kind of like tearing up at what she's saying, and just realizing like, yeah, I have to be Spider-Man. I can't ignore this responsibility anymore.
Yeah.
I thought I could, and I can't. I just can't do it. So that's why it like kind of leads into there's like some other like little scenes there too, but I think like the next major one is like him meeting up again with Mary Jane and like telling her like, I thought I could be there for you. I thought I could actually do this, and I can't. So it's like kind of again like Peter was trying to mend the relationship with her, and then like he's just got to come clean again that no, it can't happen. I have responsibilities that I have to do, and I thought I could not do them, and I have to do them. And then of course like she wants to kiss him, and it's like that will tell me like how you really feel, because you got to feel for Mary Jane that she keeps getting like these very mixed messages from Peter, where it's like, no, I don't want to be with you. Yes, I do want to be with you. And it's like, oh, actually, no, I can't be with you. It's like,
it's like you just want Peter to tell her.
Yeah, you just tell her. But Peter, he's trying to do the right thing. And it's like, no, that will put her in danger, and it will. Obviously, you go to Spider-Man 3, and she gets kidnapped, of course. And is not wrong in assuming like if I have any more enemies down the line, because she gets kidnapped like right there. Like he's just chatting with her, but because like, oh, she means something to Peter and Spider-Man stuff, like I'm gonna use her as a hostage because you have Doc Ock coming through. Which people have like said this before. You can say it's a nitpick because why would Doc Ock threw a car in there? Like that could have, you didn't know that was Spider-Man. Like easily could have killed Peter right there.
That's true. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, so people have mentioned that before. It's like not a great idea on Doc's part. And then like, after he's done saying like, go get Spider-Man, have Spider-Man come here or I'll rip the flesh off her bones. He like tosses Peter into a wall. If he was just like a regular dude, that probably would have killed him.
Yeah.
So it's like,
of course it's a comedy movie.
It's like those are all valid complaints, but it doesn't.
I didn't think about the car thing. That's very true. That's it's like
funny. If he didn't have Spider-Man reflexes, he'd be dead. Like just flat out dead.
Oh yeah.
It's a great scene though, like the way it's shot. Like because there's no CG there. The way they did it. Like they
really?
I'm pretty sure like they actually had a car go through. Like they launched a car through that way. They might have like filmed like the two things happening apart from each other, but like they actually like the car going through the shop is not CG.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Like the only thing that probably be CG is like when Peter and him are like on the floor and he's like the glasses going by like their faces. Like that's probably that's CG. Probably. But like the car going through there is not CGI.
Right.
They filmed that.
I do love a moment in this scene where Peter's under the debris and like he gets so like you know. Yeah, he just bursts out of the debris
Yeah.
and it just like
Well, he's
explodes.
pissed, so
Yeah,
that's
it's great.
understandable.
Like again, like yeah, you just gotta have that kind of intensity to it. It's great. Is the train
wait.
scene after this?
Yeah,
Or
but you know what we didn't talk about though? Like before, like after his conversation with Aunt May, like he's on the buildings where he's like trying to get his powers back, and he does
Oh,
like
yeah.
the jump, and he's like, "I'm back, I'm back." That whole scene. was
yeah,
great.
yeah, and he falls down and
I'm back. I'm back. And I love how like he slams, falls onto these cars, nothing, and then like he walks away and he touches a car, and then that sets the alarm off.
Oh yeah, that was
Great.
great. And
Yeah.
I do feel like that had to have been a Sam Raimi post-production. Like let's like have that be a little
Yeah,
joke.
I think
'Cause
so.
I
Probably
don't-
too.
I don't think the car like flashes or anything.
No,
So
probably not.
I think they were probably like that was an idea in post,
Yeah.
but it's so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we get like the whole train fight.
Yeah.
Well, first, like
This fight is great.
I think that no, first like, Spider-Man goes and gets his suit back, so that's where we get the scene where it's like, and only Spider-Man could stop Doc Ock, and Jameson's like, yes,
Yes.
So yeah, he gets his web, and he's like, Spider-Man was a hero, I couldn't see it, and then it's like, he's a thief, he stole my suit. And that whole thing is great.
This is it's not even nitpick, it's just funny. Like how does Spider-Man get in there that fast and make a web? They just had that note ready.
Yeah, like how did you do that in like a second?
How did no one notice?
Pretty much. I mean, they were like, I think everybody except Jameson were still facing the wall. So
yeah,
it's like okay, but it's great.
Just funny.
Yeah, everything about it's great.
There's a moment like that later when like Doc Ock gets the tritium out of the safe, and like I think like Harry looks back and
looks away, and then like
and
at least
Doc
like him,
Ock's,
at least you could see him like he doesn't like he's not completely gone. He's like mostly gone. You still at least do see
but it's
him.
just like these tentacles. Every other time they've like climbed a building, it's like always like this like earthquake.
Yes, and then it's like my man can use stealth
silently.
Yeah.
It's for dramatic effect. I'm not really nitpicking it.
No, it's fun. It's fun to mention though.
Yeah, it's a fun like
but yeah, then we get the whole train fight and that whole sequence with the train fight.
Great.
And just like everything about there is probably like one of my favorite like action scenes in a movie. So, like for sure superhero movie, but I think just like any movie, like I immediately think of the train scene, the train fight with Spider-Man and Doc Ock. And it's not even just their fight, like how it escalates like all over the train and on the train and then like off the train because he gets knocked off and he has to like get back on, and Doc Ock takes people and throws them off, and Spider-Man's got to catch them there. And then like he goes to the front of the train and he like smashes the brakes, and now Spider-Man's got to stop a runaway train.
Yeah,
it's like it just like never stops. Like things keep happening. Like it's so intense. It's great. Like just there's never a dull moment. Like they're taking swipes at each other. Like I said, like the fight is always like changing places, positionings on the train. Like I said, top the train, side the train, off the train. It's so good.
Yeah, and then that ticking clock element of like this train is gonna basically fall off of this track.
And everybody's gonna die unless you stop this train somehow.
Yeah, it's great. I have to mention one of the actors in this scene is I don't remember the character's name, but he's like the redneck dude in Evil Dead 2. I think he's probably been in a lot of other Sam Raimi films too. I'm gonna look up his name.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like
the extras on this train though were all pretty fun too. I love the like the conductor, I guess, where Spider-Man's like trying to he tries the webs or he tries to stop it with his feet, and he's just like, any more bright ideas? Like, I got a couple, yeah.
Dan Hicks.
The banter.
It's great.
Yeah.
All the extras in the scene are really good.
The meme face that Toby makes stopping the train, which I love. I like because
that's what like you really look like.
I know, like that's what I'm saying. Is like whenever we see like other characters like do like these feats that would require a lot of strength. Like you really feel like he's taking every single bit of his strength to stop the train, making those faces, and the outfit's tearing, and he's just the way he's
I love
holding
the
it,
idea of like
it's hurting
him
them.
shooting like all the different webs to like
Yeah.
make all this like strength. Like
Yeah,
this is
but think
great.
like he's taking like all that strength in his arms, like all the force of that.
Yeah.
So of course he's like,
Yeah, he's completely exhausted after that.
yeah,
and,
like
can't
he
even fight Doc.
no, because like
Yeah.
as soon as that and like that adrenaline is gone, he basically faints.
Yeah.
And of course, like some people will say it's like a little hokey. Of course, they lift him through the train, and he's got his arms out and stuff like that. Like he's the savior, Jesus. But like,
yeah, like it's
it's
little
fine. It's
yeah,
it's
I
a
think
little.
it works.
It's fine. Obviously, I like that this scene can work pre everybody having a cell phone.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if people had cell phones, they'd be like this.
That's true. I thought about that too. I was like, oh my god, like Peter's using a payphone.
Yeah, when you go and
know?
watch this movie, it's like, oh yeah, no one has one of these in their hands.
Yeah, no one has like an answering machine anymore. It's like all on your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, obviously this would play very differently if cell phones had been a thing, because everybody would be like this, right
Yeah.
in Peter's face.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, like once again, it comes back to like New York itself feeling like a character, and like I like that they all acknowledge that you saved our lives. We're gonna keep your secret, even though they don't know his name or anything. They know his face, but it's like, well, you saved our lives, so we won't tell anybody.
Yeah, I like that guy who says like, he's just a kid. Like,
Yeah.
no older than my son.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, it's like you always, I mean, you kind of forget that in a way. Like, yeah, he's like in his 20s. you know what I mean?
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's like easy to forget that.
Yeah, he's very young.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course Doc Ock comes onto the train while Peter's exhausted, and then I like that everybody there is kind of trying to defend him. Like, you want him, you got to go through me, and everybody kind of does that. Like they're trying to save Spider-Man because he just saved all their lives. But of course Doc Ock gets through, pushes them away, and gets to Spider-Man because Spider-Man has no strength to fight back. So he gets Spider-Man and takes him to Harry, and then we get the big reveal. Like Harry pulls off his mask, obviously. And
and his reaction is great.
And what's funny is, as a kid, they kind of showed this scene in the trailers of like Harry with the knife and like grabbing the mask and like I'm gonna find out who you are, but they obviously don't show. And like I always thought as a kid seeing that, it's like, oh well, he's not gonna actually find out. Like he's gonna get stopped or something. He's not gonna pull the mask and find out it's Peter. Like as a kid, that's what I thought happened. So like him actually pulling the mask off and finding out it's Peter, to me as a kid, that was just like this huge twist. I was like, but he actually did it. I don't know why I didn't.
Well, I mean, it's like, I think series and things are, when you think of as an adult, it's like, oh yeah, everything has to keep the status quo in a way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you almost expect like something's gonna interrupt them, but he just finds out right there. And again, like the reaction from Harry, where he just like backs away.
Yeah,
it's like he can't believe it.
He can't believe it. Which, no surprise. The person that he hates the most is actually his best friend.
Yeah,
the person that he considers is almost like a brother, I would think. Killed his father is what he believes, and Peter doesn't really give him a whole lot of explanation at that time because there's no time. He knows that Doc is putting together the machine again, and he has Mary Jane. It's like he could destroy half the city. He could kill Mary Jane if he does this. I don't have time to explain everything that's happened. There's bigger things going on here than you and me. You just need to tell me where she is, and I'll deal with this later. It was just essentially that's all that really happens with them, because then we get kind of like the final confrontation with Spider-Man and Doc Ock, and it's all pretty great, like that whole thing. And I remember though as a kid, like they don't really do a whole lot of fighting here.
No, not really.
Like, the fight scene is very quick. All they really do is like exchange maybe a couple blows, and that's kind of it. Which you'd think, oh, this is the final showdown. This would be the big one, but that was already kind of done on the train scene. And here it's just there's not much of a fight.
Yeah, but
You know,
there
as
is
a kid, it's almost like it's a little disappointing as a kid, but you know, now it's like I don't mind because like we just had like the train scene happens like so late in the movie, like it's almost just like continuing the fight, you know, like this whole like
yeah,
last
it almost feels like
confrontation.
it's just keeping that
Yeah,
motion, like that momentum.
yeah. But like obviously as a kid, it's like I want more fighting. So I'm just like giving my thoughts of like things I remember seeing it as a kid.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely like I feel like a kid thing to
Yeah,
feel about that.
you know, you want to
But yeah,
see
now it's like
more punching and
the
fighting and
real
stuff.
the real conflict is just like, well, now what does Doc Ock do, and like
Yeah,
how does
because
Peter make him snap out of it?
yeah, and not
Um,
only that, it's like at this point he activated the machine, and
yeah,
like that's kind of like the conflict now is I got to stop this machine somehow. And then we have the scene where Doc's able to kind of take control with because Peter uses the words that he was told earlier, that you know if you have this intelligence, then you need to use it for the benefit of all mankind, and you have to give
yeah,
up
which is
your dream.
essentially a reiteration of with great power comes great responsibility,
Yeah,
which I
and
like.
I like that he used that, and he also used the words that Aunt May told them, like to do the right thing, we have to sometimes give up what we want, or give up what we want the most, and that includes even our dreams, because that's what Peter's had to do to be Spider-Man. He's had to give up what he wanted the most, and now you can do the right thing and stop this, um, even if it means giving up your dream. And he agrees because the last thing he says before Doc Ock dies is, "He does not. I'm not going to die a monster."
Yeah, great line.
Mm-hmm. And of course, then we get the whole reveal. His mask is off. Mary Jane finally sees that it's Spider-Man is Peter Parker this whole time. And they
Again,
get out of
like
there.
not keeping the status quo.
Yeah,
I really like that.
yeah. It like all this, like the whole movie of him, like kind of he wants to tell her, but he can't. And you both with like Harry and Mary Jane, like where he's keeping these secrets, and they both find out, and obviously have both very different reactions. And he tells her like, you know, my enemies will find out about you, so we can't be together.
Yeah.
So of course she's kind of going to her wedding. It's her wedding day, and yeah, this is like at least one criticism I can say. It's like you couldn't have decided this just like a little bit before. You had to leave the guy at the altar. Like Jameson's son seems like such a nice guy. You couldn't have decided this just like a little bit earlier, but you know,
Yeah,
it makes for good dramatic effect, like where she's running
exactly
in the dress and everything. But I feel sorry for Jameson. Like seemed like a nice dude, and he gets left at the altar. I just what Jameson in that scene though is great. Like
I like that too. They could have easily made this character like a dickhead, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. But especially like Jameson's his father. You'd think he would be almost.
Especially.
But he's like such a nice guy.
Yeah.
You feel sorry for him.
I like that scene where like it's just him and Mary Jane in like I guess their apartment or whatever, and like she tells him to, like lean back and she kisses him.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about that.
And he says like, "Oh, I'm over the moon."
You up there with me?
Yeah, you up there with me?
She's like,
it's like kind of sweet from his perspective.
Yeah.
Like
now, fun fact: Jameson's son becomes the villain Manwolf in the comics.
Really? Okay. It's interesting that you said, because I remember like Doug Walker talked about the Spider-Man movies, and he mentioned like it would have been great if this character was Venom. He would have gone into space, gotten the symbiote or whatever, and then come back, and he'd have some kind of like reason to have revenge against Peter.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought that was not a bad idea.
Yeah, that would probably be like a better motivation than Eddie had in Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, I really don't even remember what his motivation was in Spider-Man 3, so I'm excited to see and talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that would.
But yeah, I agree.
See that. That'd be cool. That would have been fine. I can see. I can agree with that.
Yeah,
but
it almost felt like they were maybe thinking of doing that because like or something where he's going to be.
Yeah, because I think in
he has that like really
not in the comics, but in the '90s series, actually, Jameson's son, you know, he's an astronaut, so he is like on the space shuttle when like the Venom symbiote like attaches to the space to the ship that they're on. Like, and then that
Right.
it's not in the comics. Like in the comics, Peter gets his black suit by going to Battle World, and it's just like a big crossover event. So that's how he gets in the comics. But then the '90s series, which that seemed to be like more so like how Venom was kind of like introduced in Spider-Man 3, was just like coming down from space on like a comet, was like that pretty much in the '90s series. That's how it happened, except that like in that it got attached to the spaceship that Jameson's son was piloting. But yeah, that's why I said like earlier, at least in the Spider-Man 1 review, I don't remember if I said in this one. This has been a long video, so
I know it's almost midnight for us,
yeah.
so we
We've been
gotta wrap this up.
We've been talking about these two movies for like 4 hours.
I know. Sorry.
We're like at the end of the movie anyway.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, I just gotta say though, like Jameson is so funny. Like I love how
Oh, God,
when they're
yeah.
waiting for Mary Jane to come in, you just see like him stick his head out.
Yeah, and then oh my god, this line was really funny too.
Called Deborah.
Called Deborah.
And Cater told her not to open the
Don't
caviar.
open the caviar.
And the look she gives him, like
That
She's like,
that was
"Great."
another thing that I didn't even really think about or realize. Like, oh yeah, this is Jameson's like wife, the same one he's talking to over the phone all the time. You know,
yeah.
it didn't
Much
like
she lost the chest
for some
book,
reason I
the
didn't
checkbook.
like.
Thanks for the good news.
Yeah, for some reason it didn't like. I didn't put two and two together. I just didn't think about it that much. But like, that's really funny.
I love that interaction too. Just like told her not to open the caviar. It's just the look she gives him, and he just like keeps that look. Like he doesn't change expressions, but she's just like, "Are you serious?" But hey,
Yeah.
like caviar is expensive, and it's like, well, this wedding ain't happening, so I can't really blame him. But I just like how that's the first thing that goes to his mind is obviously like, oh, we better like save money on this because it's not happening now. But I love the look she gives him, like this, just like
Yeah,
and the
then,
fact
like,
that his expression doesn't change.
Jameson obviously knows too. Like, no one said anything, but he knows.
Yeah,
he
love-
knows
oh,
it's not happening.
it's a great like that's his final scene in the movie, of course, and it's great,
Yeah,
so great. So of course, like and she's running in the dress, and then in a little bit of slow motion there, and it's a scene, and obviously she goes there, and she wants to, even though she knows it's going to be difficult, she wants to make the decision herself to be with Peter. And of course, like it's her own decision, so Peter can only say thank you, Mary Jane Watson. So they kiss, get together finally, and of course, in the middle of their first kiss, he already has to rush off and be Spider-Man.
yeah,
And I love, he swings away, but then we get a shot back to Mary Jane, and it kind of like she almost has this somber look on her face. Would you say, like this?
Yeah,
Where it's like, okay, she kind of might realize what she's chosen, because like as soon as they get together, boom, like he's off being Spider-Man, and what this could lead to. So it doesn't even like end on her like oh, I'm with Peter, I'm with Spider-Man, this is great. It's just kind of like almost this foreboding look.
The like audacity of these movies, the audacity of these movies to end on these like somber notes is like fantastic. That's something I really appreciate.
And that's Spider-Man 2.
Ending. Yeah, it's
one of those endings where it's like it could just end there, and like you kind of be like, was that like the right decision to make for her? Like, am I gonna actually be happy, or is this gonna happen all the time, and we're never gonna get time to be together?
Yeah, we didn't mention like there's a scene with Harry where he
and finds out that his dad is the Green Goblin.
Yeah,
which
that was a cool scene.
Yeah, obviously. And then like Willem Dafoe just like, hi son, I'm here. Like, what?
Yeah.
I love that they were able to get Willem Dafoe somehow back for all three of these movies.
Oh, does he show up in the third one?
Yeah, he's in the third one too.
Okay.
As like this thing that Harry sees.
Okay.
All
right.
But I don't know if you heard about this. It was just like this trivia thing where Willem Dafoe, just like showed up on set one day or something, and they're just like, he's here. Let's use Willem Dafoe. Like, so he wasn't planned to be in this. He was just kind of there, and I guess Sam Raimi was just like, you want to be in like one scene? You're here. So yeah, I guess he just showed up. And
isn't there footage of him like trying on the Dr. Octopus?
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
if it was like that was like the same day or like he came back multiple days. I don't know, and I don't know how true it is, but I like to think that that's real. As he just showed up to set because actors have done that before. It's not like that doesn't happen. So he
Yeah.
just like showed up and it's like he's here. Like it's just like basically one scene. You don't really have to deal with a whole lot. Like let's
Yeah,
just have
it's
him in the
crazy.
movie.
Like certain things just happen by chance like that. Yeah.
So that was like a nice surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really it.
That's Spider-Man 2. It's such a great
Is this like gonna be our longest
movie.
review?
I feel like it's probably we'll see. I we'll probably have one review that's like 2 hours long, right? This went for
Isn't
about
Rocky?
2
I think
hours.
our Rocky one's our longest one. That one's about 2 hours.
Okay.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Okay. Quick. Let's wrap this up though. Quick rating. You already know mine. This is a 5 out of 5 movie, easily for me. Second favorite movie of all time. What a shock! I know.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it was anything but a 5. Yeah, this is, I think, I want to say it's my favorite comic book movie. Like favorite superhero movie. I mean, like The Dark Knight is great, and like Logan, I love.
Yeah, those are great too.
But this one just like has such a perfect balance of like really, really fun stuff and really great drama, really great building off the first movie.
Yeah, you've seen this movie like quite a few times too, right? Like, do you ever get tired of it? Have you ever like felt it was a chore to get through or anything, or just like,
this time around, I did kind of feel like I was like, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's almost like one of those movies where it's like, this is gonna sound weird. It's like it's almost so perfect that I got, I don't want to say bored, but I was like, there's no flaws here. Like, and I was a little bit, I don't know. I was like, does that make it less interesting? But after talking about it again, I'm like, nah, this movie fucking rules. It's great. It's like, it's so good.
It is so good.
Yeah, definitely like one of the best comic book movies ever made, if not like the best. Yeah, it's like unlike Peter in the movie, it balances everything so well.
Yeah,
like everything it needs to do is so great. Yeah, it'll only be topped by Spider-Man 3, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I really do. I'm excited to see Spider-Man 3. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
What's
who
your
knows? I
rating
might
for
like
this
it. I might like it more than before.
We'll see.
But yeah, so did I
give
say
the rating though? You didn't say the rating yet.
Oh, I didn't say my rating yet? Okay. 4.5. Like,
Nice.
It's
Good.
great.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the end of this review. Yeah, we'll talk about Spider-Man 3 next week. So join us for that, and that's it. We'll see you then. It's midnight. We gotta stop.
Yeah. Pizza time, everybody. Gotta go.
Yeah.
See you, chumps.
All right.